Dexter was once an amazing show. Seasons 1 and 4, premier television. More Than One Murder was inspired by the series, the sincerest form of flattery.
I learned it by watching you.
However, by its last season, it became so cartoonishly terrible that serial killing became considered cringe and the murder rate dropped to 0%. Just look at how Dexter discovers the identity of that season's villain.
That guy Cassie was dating. Is it possible this is Vogel's son?
0%! The show was once a cultural phenomenon and Showtime's highest rated series. What happened to it? Were the writers stupid? Worse, they were lazy. They tried to work backwards from what a good finale should have, and then they made their characters mindless vessels, making dumb story choices so they could all be pigeonholed into their embarrassing reverse-engineered plot. Spoiler warning for all of the original Dexter, Dexter New Blood, and a little bit of Resurrection, by the way. A question for you. What does a good series finale have? A major character death, a layer of symbolism, the main character having fundamental self-revelations, a final flashback to a defining character moment, a brief flash forward into the future. Good series finales usually have some or all of these elements, but that's because they're emerging properties of a well-written thematic conclusion. Quality writing tends to converge on certain key ideas, because those tend to be the ways that our brains find stories meaningful. However, the Dexter finale reads like the writers started with this list of good series finale tropes, intentionally created an episode around the list, and then crudely stitched it together with their painfully bad season plot, filling in the gaps with whatever low-effort nonsense they could come up with. It's the TV version of Mad Libs.
I'm going to pick some random letters from this bag of Scrabble tiles. Let fate choose a name for us. V. A. G.
Following the character and plot threads you've set up for multiple seasons and creatively finding ways for them to collide and culminate into a final episode is hard. Isn't it easier to start with a checklist and do the bare minimum to connect the dots between those and whatever you feel like writing? Then, divide that into 12 pieces. There's your season. The result was the complete butchering of a series that was already on shaky ground. Dexter seasons 6 and 7 are like a puppy drowning, and season 8 is like taking another puppy and using it to drown the first one. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To make sense of this multi-season slow-motion car crash, let's begin with the basics. Dexter is the cautionary tale of what happens when a cop adopts a child. It's the story of our main character who, due to childhood trauma, was burdened with a need to kill. His father, a detective, helped him channel those urges into something more morally defensible, only going after killers who've escaped the justice system.
Son, there are people out there who do really bad things.
You're saying they deserve it?
Between choosing a career in forensics and the dad's understanding of criminal investigations, our main character is able to commit those crimes without getting caught. His adoptive sister, constantly striving for the attention of her father, also becomes a detective. The father's name is Harry, the sister's name is Deborah, and the main character's name is Baxter. Wait, I read that wrong. The show is based off of a book series called Darkly Dreaming Dexter by Jeff Lindsay. That's right. There's a light novel. In season 1, the story characterizes Dexter as an emotionless killer who's hiding in plain sight. We learn how he's carefully constructed every aspect of his life to appear normal, only for a new, mysterious serial killer to see through his facade. It starts a cat and mouse game where Dexter and the audience both unravel why this serial killer has taken such an interest in Dexter and seems to know so much about his past.
I was never one to dwell on my past, but my friend out there wants to bring those memories into focus.
By the end of it, we learn that the facade life that Dexter constructed actually means something to him, and that he's not the cold-blooded psychopath he believed he was. In season 4, we see the balancing act pushed to a new level, when he becomes a full-time suburban dad, and struggles to have both his normal life and his desire to kill.
Look at him. Fast asleep. Lucky guy.
He discovers another killer who's been active for over 30 years and still seems to have a loving family, causing Dexter to risk his own family in an attempt to learn how to better manage both sides of himself.
Hello, Dexter Morgan.
No. All right, kids, say goodbye to Mom.
By the end of it, we're left with the tragic realization that Dexter's dream is impossible in a very visceral way. In season 8, Dexter gets a secret mom who has an extra secret son. He and the woman who poisoned his sister are dating. The big bad for the season is found by drawing a beard on a picture of a child, followed by a computer telling Dexter there's a 97% chance that he's right. And the dramatic circumstances that the series ends with can be traced precisely back to Dexter's 5-year-old son going too fast on a treadmill. By the end of it, you want to drown yourself, Virginia Woolf style. We may sink and settle on the waves. The sea will drum in my ears. The white petals will be darkened with seawater. Now look, the first few seasons aren't perfect. One of the most cowardly writing decisions happens in season 2, and we'll get to that. But this goes way beyond plot holes and nitpicks. This is the soul of a show being replaced with a paint-by-numbers parody. This is witnessing driven, nuanced characters turn into the confused puppets of an equally confused showrunner.
Saxon clearly has the upper hand here, and he's the one who came into this situation, created this whole situation, so Dexter just has no idea what's going on.
This is Scott Buck, by the way. Remember his name. He's the final boss of this video. I'm here to explain what happened. To do this, we're going to break down who Dexter is as a character, his primary challenges through the series, and what made the first few seasons so good. From there, we're going to do a deep dive into the many failures of the later seasons. From the world's worst therapist, to the world's worst love interest, and to the world's worst treadmill. A complete and thorough autopsy of Dexter. Oh, that would have been a better title. The gloves are coming off, ladies. The gloves are still coming off, ladies. Okay, let's take a look at Dexter's character and the various big bads before I really start tearing things apart. As with any good video essay, if you've never seen Dexter, this will let you follow along. Episode 1 opens with a devilish dude driving, delivering a dark voiceover.
Tonight's the night.
It's our guy, Dexter Morgan, and he tells us that tonight's the night. What does he mean? Is he hungry?
But I'm hungry
Got it.
for something different now.
Oh, never mind. Obviously, the version of you watching this knows that Dexter's a killer and he's probably out to get someone, and it would have been my third guess. But, amusingly enough, if you don't know the premise of Dexter, him saying, "Tonight's the night," and "I'm hungry for something different," followed by a church choir singing, sort of implies he wants to join their choir?
Some angry moments, of course.
Also, I just want to point out that this kid isn't singing. But then we see what Dexter is really up to. He's stalking a target. Dexter is going after the pastor leading this boys' choir, presumably because he told Dexter he was too old to join.
What do you want?
I want to be quiet.
He wants to be choir? Dexter forces him to drive somewhere remote and confronts him. After a brief argument, we're shown the implied corpses of several children, and we learn that the pastor has done this. The pastor is a murderer, a predator who has killed and done other horrible things to several little boys, presumably all in the choir. You're telling me there were open spots? Now, the writers know that a main character killing anybody is not going to sit well with the audience, especially this early on. So the first victim they choose is someone who goes after kids, which is biologically the most universally despised crime. We're hardwired to want to see this pastor get canceled on Twitter, so we have an easier time connecting to the main character. The child murder helps the serial killing medicine go down, as it were. There's no way this video is monetized. Clergy and little boys, name a more iconic duo.
You know how many little boys are praying for jetpacks? How many priests are praying for... Well, that one actually works.
But, to be clear, Dexter is doing this for his own reasons. One interesting thing I didn't notice till recently because my attention span is fucked is that when Dexter first chokes him, the show spends nearly 7 seconds just showing Dexter's satisfied face as he does it. It's great, subtle acting. He's choking a man with a wire and, strangely delighted, savoring the moment. It's a nice bit of show don't tell. Despite the vigilante vibe you get from him going after a child predator, he's not primarily fueled by a moral imperative. There's a compulsion deep in him that he's feeding. We actually learn almost everything we need to know about Dexter from this opening episode. His careful planning, how he hunts others, the way he prepares to kill them, how he actually does it, his saran wrap loyalty card. He's a serial killer, it's ritualized, and he's very good at what he does. He's so effective at hunting and capturing people during the first season that you feel the same assuredness as watching Mike in Breaking Bad do anything.
Take my gun from me.
You can make it not so easy.
What the son of a...
Side note, this is how Dexter secretly monitors his target in season 8.
Saxon must have spotted him. He's good at this.
We'll get to that. Back at episode 1, Dexter's voiceover gives us useful exposition. Dexter is a serial killer who targets other murderers. He was adopted at a young age by Harry and Doris Morgan. Harry is a detective who taught him how to do this without getting caught. He calls it Harry's Code.
I built my life on Harry's Code.
Speaking of which, you can use this Harry's Code to save 20% off your first No, I'm just kidding. Imagine how good of an ad transition that would be, though. I actually tried emailing Harry's to see if they would sponsor this video based on that joke, but they didn't respond, so I hope they go bankrupt. Dexter calls this urge to kill his dark passenger. His dad's code tells him how to identify a potential target, gather evidence to make sure they're guilty and likely to kill again, as well as how to capture and dispose of them.
God bless America.
The most important rule in Harry's Code is
Don't get caught.
the second most important is
Make sure they deserve it.
the third most important is the first 100 orders get free aftershave gel. The first episode introduces most of the side characters for the season and for the series. We've got La Passion, sex joke speedrun any percent. They're not related by blood. And Game of Bones. Is that everyone? I'm pretty sure that's the
Surprise, motherfucker.
Dexter effectively hides his psychopathic tendencies. He's jovial and upbeat with coworkers. He knows how to be friendly when meeting new people, and he's found a variety of coping mechanisms to avoid being in more emotionally complex situations. He has a girlfriend, Rita, who's a traumatized domestic abuse survivor, just to ensure that she doesn't want any kind of physical or emotional intimacy anytime soon.
She's perfect because Rita is, in her own way, as damaged as me.
This lets him appear normal while not needing to engage in most of the complicated interpersonal rituals that come with your standard romantic relationship. If you're aromantic, replace romantic relationship with having a job where the manager keeps asking about your dad. He's even good with his girlfriend's kids, because if you exclude all of that tricky parenting stuff, the rest is just saying silly things and making sure that they don't OD on gummy vitamins. Honestly, if you have autism or some form of neurodivergency that makes mundane daily life interactions difficult, the first season of Dexter is a surprisingly solid demonstration on how a person might mask or fake it. Strategies like building a mental catalog of pre-scripted responses, bringing donuts to work every day to Pavlov's dog your coworkers, and mirroring the behaviors or words of others to blend in.
Can't let them steal our women now, can we?
No, they're our women.
Is that the sign-up sheet?
Yeah.
Dexter is constantly gathering advice from people and just assuming that they know better, which is good in general but leads to awkward situations, like where his coworker, Sergeant Batista, tells him that the solution to his girlfriend's desire for emotional intimacy is... see for yourself.
La pasión. La pasión. Yeah, it keeps the relationship alive. Hey, what about, communication? Trust. La pasión. What if she wants something more emotionally? Don't go down that emotional road. Just go down on her.
The old lickaroo, as it were.
Well, Dexter?
I was gonna return the favor.
You'll be shocked to learn that La Passion didn't work. Maybe he meant the gang? The only one who sees through Dexter's facade is James Dokes. If you've never seen Dexter, you probably still know this guy from the surprise motherfucker meme.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Surprise, motherfucker. All rise, motherfucker. Wrong size, motherfucker.
Dokes knows that there's something wrong with Dexter. He just doesn't know what. It's an interesting dynamic where everyone at Miami Metro PD is friendly to Dexter, and then you're slapped in the face with outright hostility from Dokes.
Where the hell you been?
Crime scene? Is there something I can do?
Yeah, you can give me your fucking analysis on the blood spatter on these killings. You think I'm here to invite you to my nephew's bris?
I didn't know you were Jewish.
Shut the fuck up.
Now, Dexter is a character. Characters have personalities. Being a YouTuber is easy. As a viewer, you want the people you're watching to be more than amorphous blobs of dialogue that propel some plot forward, and it often doesn't take much. L from Death Note sat with his legs up, and an entire generation of weebs had a phase where they did the same. Oh, I know about the time you changed your profile picture to the black letter font for your first initial. The interesting thing about Dexter is that, especially for the first few seasons, he's discovering facets of who he is and what he wants at the same time as the audience. And it's because many aspects of his personality have been muted or overcast by the grooming he experienced as a child to be a murderer that blends in.
Sometimes I'm not sure where Harry's vision of me ends and the real me starts.
In fact, the primary emotional drive of the first few seasons is about Dexter undoing that programming and discovering his own humanity, realizing that he wants a normal life, a partner that cares about him, a friend he can open up to, a family to be a part of, even if those things clash violently with his own darkness. That tension creates some of Dexter's best character arcs.
I've never felt this.
You've never had a son before.
I want to be there for him. I've never wanted anything so much in my life.
And to be clear, Dexter was groomed into being a killer. Seeing your mom get murdered as a child does not mean you have to cut up people as an adult. Trust me, I checked the DSM-5 on this. Once Dexter started showing violent or psychopathic tendencies, Harry should have sought professional help. And I'm not just saying this, Dexter has the exact same realization in season 6.
Making me a killer was the best you could do.
You already gotta be a killer.
No, I guess we'll never know. There it is. The fuck pad.
But I want to sympathize. Maybe what Harry did was the best solution he had given the circumstances. He's a father way out of his depth, afraid of his child getting taken away and committed. So trying to channel Dexter's violent tendencies could seem like a reasonable answer that he could actually enact. He's not a psychiatrist who specializes in psychopathy, after all. And the last season certainly wouldn't reveal that he was frequently consulting with one as a cheap attempt to give Dexter a spiritual mother figure, right? You gotta be fucking kidding me. In season 1, the big bad is the ice truck killer. His MO is to murder prostitutes, drain their blood, hack them into pieces, and then leave them somewhere for others to find. But Adam, what does any of that have to do with an ice truck? Great question. Just for that, I'm doing one less ad break. In episode 1, Dexter suspects that the killer might have done the killings in a very cold, but also mobile environment.
Refrigerated truck.
Then, the Dexter writers use their Deus Ex Machina once per season pass to have Dexter find an ice truck, follow it, and have the driver throw a severed head at his windshield. As one does. Also, we see Captain LaGuerta shamelessly try to bone Dexter.
You know, you should call me Maria. I'll tell you who's good. You are.
Bonk! When Dexter gets home, he finds a torn apart Barbie doll in his freezer. Get it? The Barbie is a prostitute, and the freezer is a freezer. The implication is that the ice truck killer knows about Dexter's true identity somehow, and is inviting him to a friendly game of cat and mouse.
In fact, I think this is a friendly message.
Dexter's mask has been tailored to perfection. With the exception of one coworker, no one would ever suspect him of anything nefarious. And it's all thrown off balance when an expert, mysterious killer appears who Dexter clearly looks up to.
How does he do it? How does the killer get rid of the blood?
His kill methods seem almost engineered to get Dexter's attention.
There's no blood in or on or near the body at all.
Why hadn't I thought of that? No blood. What a beautiful idea.
And on top of all of that, he immediately clocks Dexter's true identity. Dexter spends many episodes in the season trying to get Ice Truck Killer Senpai's attention. He even lonely posts on Craigslist.
Hey Barbie, how'd you like to suck my c-?
After Dexter fails to get Ice Truck Killer Senpai to notice him, he reluctantly befriends the new guy his sister is dating, named Rudy Cooper. In this case, the name Rudy is short for Brian. He also attends therapy with a serial killer therapist whose MO is to respond to all of his patients with, "Damn, that's crazy. Have you considered killing yourself?"
In many cultures, there's no stigma attached to taking one's life. Suicide's respected.
How do most people do it?
Dexter does end up having a breakthrough before he kills the guy. While reflecting deeply on his life, he discovers a repressed memory. A little boy covered in blood, screaming and crying.
I have to get out of here.
Yeah, the boy in blood, buried in our subconscious, we've all seen it.
Let's get back on track, bud.
Dexter's dad never told him his backstory because he knew it'd be better as a season 1 plot. Don't forget, Harry and Doris adopted him at the age of 3. We know nothing about him before then. Then, Ice Truck Killer Senpai turns a hotel room into a literal, actual bloodbath. In this room, Dexter finally unlocks his hidden memories. When he was a child, he watched his mother get chainsawed to death in a cargo container as part of a drug-related killing. It took 3 days for the police to find him. Specifically, Harry found him. Harry was having an affair with Dexter's mom, and it's likely related to the reason she died. So now we know why Harry cares so much about this adopted child, Dexter, despite the trauma and violent tendencies. He feels guilty. He's indirectly the cause of this trauma. It's a hell of a story, as visceral as it is horrifying, and it's one of the things that makes season 1 so gripping. Meanwhile, Deborah is still dating the doctor, Rudy S. Cooper. In episode 8, we find out that Rudy is Ice Truck Killer Senpai in a pretty chilling last scene, which I ruined in a YouTube upload 10 years ago by adding the Toradora ending music to it.
I'm in the middle of some housework. If I don't get it done before I see it, it's gonna drive me crazy.
You're just full of surprises, huh?
Oh, you have no idea.
So now we know that Deborah's in danger. Batista, who at this point has become a pretty likable side character, is also very close to figuring out who it is, so Rudy tries to stab him. La Passion, oh no! Then, just as Dexter is about to figure it out, Rapunzel asks Deborah to marry him, takes her out on the yacht at night, reveals his true identity, and then kidnaps her.
I say yes, but I can still wear the ring, right?
Yes, but One glass of champagne, that's all I ask.
So we can take him to a nice, comfortable place below deck and, they can't refuse because of the implication.
Oh, God! Oh, my God! Oh, my God! Oh, my God!
This is the first of many fucked, traumatic things that happened to Deborah.
I never wanted to hurt you.
I know. I know.
Just make it easier for you because I can keep going.
Oh, God, Jesus.
Like, seriously, imagine falling in love with someone, experiencing one of the happiest moments of your life, only for it to be a lie, tailor-made to exploit you. They turn into a completely different person, cold and unemotional, as you're helplessly kidnapped and tortured by them, betrayed, and knowing you're going to die at the hands of someone you thought you loved. On top of that, this is the guy she was trying to catch. How can she not blame herself at least a little as a detective? It's obviously not her fault though. Sociopaths are very adept at manipulating and love-bombing vulnerable targets. She's a victim here. It'd be really fucked if a therapist told her that this was her fault 5 seasons later, right? Right? Realizing that Deborah's been kidnapped, Dexter rushes to hunt down Ice Truck Killer Senpai. That gives us this incredible scene.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Are you following me now?
You better have a hell of a reason for being here.
I'm looking for my sister.
In a cargo box?
All right, you got me. I ordered some furniture from Thailand. I was waiting for it to be delivered.
Dexter finds Rudy and learns the truth. He wasn't the only one in that container where his mother died. He had a brother there too.
I have a brother.
A real brother. None of this foster bullshit.
Your family hates you! Only I love you!
The two brothers were separated after the incident, and the older one, Brian, developed the same urge to kill as Dexter.
Imagine how I felt when I tracked you down and found out you were exactly like me.
That's right. Ice Truck Killer Senpai is really Ice Truck Killer Onisan. No one's gonna watch this.
Big brother, what the hell took you so long?
Here's a meme lesson. The label El Hermano is used to refer to any time a story, fanfiction or otherwise, introduces a long-lost brother who's basically the main character but more capable. Anyone who's experienced the last arc of Food Wars knows exactly what I'm talking about. Brian is probably the only well-written character with this label. And maybe Shamrock, depending on where the story goes. Anyway, Brian offers Dexter a chance to run away together, getting to be with someone who's your own flesh and blood, and someone who you don't need to hide your dark passenger from. To do this, though, Dexter has to kill Deborah.
Does it have to be Deb?
It's the only way.
And Dexter says no.
I can't.
No, don't say that.
I'm very fond of her.
I'll talk about this more in the next part, but this is one of the biggest decisions he makes as a character. Brian tries to kill Deborah himself, so Dexter has to kill his own brother to keep her safe.
She need to be put down.
Ultimately, Dexter chooses Deborah's safety over a relationship with Brian, which tells us how much this so-called camouflage life means to Dexter. Season 2 is probably the closest Dexter gets to being a serialized drama, rather than a villain of the week, big bad of the season style series. The main plot is people discovering the bodies he's been dumping into the ocean, which starts a manhunt for what everyone calls
the Bay Harbor Butcher. The Bay Harbor Butcher?
There are 3 main antagonists all screwing with Dexter in their own way. First, Special Agent Frank Lundy, an expert in catching serial killers, is called in to help with the investigation. When Dexter tries to screw with the investigation using an anonymous manifesto, Lundy correctly deduces the Butcher has a law enforcement background, and he's utilizing it to craft a purposefully confusing manifesto.
This is what he wants. Confusion. Chaos. The killer's making us chase our tails. You know what that means? He knows how we work.
That's some Death Note mind games shit right there.
Look how he hits every major theme. Political, environmental, religious.
It's some of the best cat and mouse games Dexter has with an antagonist, and it's done 2 seasons into an 8-season show.
As you can see, the low velocity drops clearly point in a direction opposite.
Except those low velocity drops were revealed to actually be 90-degree passive drops that were given tails due to the angle of the floor. You're not winning me over here, Morgan.
The second is Lila, who plays the role of a sociopathic femme fatale. After Dexter is forced to attend Narcotics Anonymous, Lila becomes his sponsor. Then, when Rita and Dexter are maybe on a break, he sleeps with Lila, which causes Rita to break up with him for real.
We were on a break!
When Dexter realizes that Rita is more important, Lila tries to fuck with his life in increasingly unhinged ways to keep him around. This includes dating Batista just so she can pin a fake sexual assault charge on him. Lastly, Dokes is onto Dexter more than ever. Dokes spends evenings following Dexter and watching his every move. Dexter fights back by trying to get him fired and discredited.
The only real question I have is why, in a building full of cops, all supposedly with a keen insight into the human soul, is Dokes the only one who gets the creeps from me?
Good question. Let me tell you a story. You know how you talk to children differently than how you talk to adults? Well, I was a camp counselor in the early 2010s. After spending 3 summers having to wrangle and entertain 6-year-olds, you get very good at talking in that condescending, encouraging tone that lights up their underdeveloped brains. Wow, you painted that all by yourself? Come on, let's go play dodgeball. Your parents are getting divorced. Unfortunately, you can't exactly put those skills on your LinkedIn. So one summer, I decided to instead apply those skills by talking to one specific friend like he's a 6-year-old child. Condescension and patronizing tone turned up to 11. I would only call him buddy. He would tell me about a soccer game he played. Wow, did you score any points? My other friends knew I was doing this, and they were waiting the entire time for him to realize that I was acting like a complete jackass. Finally, one evening, I pushed my luck. He tells me that he recently painted his garage a new color. He's sitting on a recliner, so I kneel down so I can be eye level with him. You know, the way a fucking parent does.
Zachary, remember? Remember Zachary?
I go, what color did you paint it? My friends are witnessing this. They're like, for sure, he has to notice now. But he's completely unfazed. Oh, we decided to paint it a dark red. So I say, wow, buddy, is that your favorite color? My friend, the one who watched Steins Gate wrong, spits out a laugh that she has to disguise as her choking.
I'm sorry, man. That was a weird-ass sneeze I just did right there.
And he continued to answer like everything is normal. To cap it off, I asked for a high five and then got up. He still doesn't know I did this. This video might be how he finds out. And to be clear, he didn't do anything wrong by not picking up on this. This is just 18-year-old Adam and his stupid fucking bits. So all this is to say, once people have an approximation of you in their brain, even objectively strange behaviors can and will be glossed over like it's nothing. Everyone else in the department is too engrossed in their own lives to scrutinize the way Dexter smiles a little too much when he walks them through a crime scene. Only naturally suspicious, no social life dokes has the energy to look further.
I've never seen someone so excited about a crime scene before. You like this blood shit a little too much.
I'm just doing my job.
Then wipe that fucking smile off your face.
This isn't in the script, but it's something I realized just now. In Dexter Original Sin, you learn that Dexter has been in the department since he was 20 as an intern, and Dokes doesn't join until way later. So everyone has known Dexter for like 10 years. They have a fundamentally different relationship with him than Dokes does. It all culminates with Dokes figuring out that Dexter is the butcher, but also getting caught and imprisoned by Dexter.
You're gonna have to kill me, Morgan! You're gonna have to fucking kill me, Morgan!
Whoa, what's Dexter gonna do? Dokes doesn't fit the code. He's not a serial killer, so murdering him would be a betrayal of Dexter's deeply ingrained ideals. But not doing it would mean Dexter almost certainly getting caught. Now that is a compelling character decision. Either way, we learn something about Dexter. He contemplates turning himself in, or perhaps framing Dokes as the butcher. We, the viewers, imagine whether we do A, the pragmatic thing, B, the moral thing, or C, try some third risky option that might be possible if Dexter is clever enough. For those who haven't seen it, I want you to choose which one you think the writers did. Did you pick one? Nicely done. As you correctly predicted, the answer is D. Dexter's pyromaniac ex-girlfriend kills Dokes without Dexter's knowledge after stumbling upon the cabin Dokes was captive in.
What a journey!
So not only do the writers kill off Dexter's best foil 2 seasons into the show, but they do it in the most cowardly way possible.
What the fuck are you doing? No! Turn that off! Do you understand this is murder?
They set up an interesting moral dilemma and then use their once-per-season Deus Ex Machina card to write their way out of it. With Dokes dead, Dexter's easily able to frame him as the butcher. And since Lila just killed someone innocent, she now fits the code. And most importantly, Dexter and Rita are boning again. In Season 3, we get District Attorney Miguel Prado. Dexter, having botched catching a dealer he thought he'd caught before he was caught by Miguel's brother and forced to off him, finally re-catches a scofflaw, only to get caught mid-catch and slash by Miguel Prado. What? Basically, Dexter targets a drug dealer named Freebo, whose biggest crime is strangling women to death. However, there's an unexpected struggle, and he ends up killing Miguel Prado's brother, Oscar, whose biggest crime is just buying drugs. Not worthy of the code. Unless you're Ronald Reagan. Miguel thinks that Freebo did it, so when he catches Dexter killing Freebo, he sees it as a righteous act of vengeance.
I wasn't sure that I could do this, but you did.
Dexter befriends Miguel at first. It's someone normal who knows a version of his secret and hasn't turned his back on him. And the more Dexter reveals to him, the more he sees that Miguel isn't backing away.
So when you talk to me about the darkness inside of you, I understand.
We'll delve into the psychology of this later. Eventually, Miguel helps Dexter with his kills, obtaining people on his wish hit list. Hit wish list? Dexter successfully gets Clemson Galt, whose biggest crime is ordering hits on witnesses, ties to the Aryan Brotherhood, and whatever this slicked back mullet abomination is.
You can't just calm that out and reset it?
The whole time, Dexter's dad is like, no, Dexter, you're not allowed to make friends like this. And Dexter's like, nah, man, bet. It's giving chill, no cap. I may be embellishing slightly. Those words don't fit in my mouth. It makes sense that Miguel gels so well with Dexter's extracurricular activities. As a district attorney, he spent most of his career struggling to put people away who he believes are guilty of serious crimes, trudging through the minutiae of the criminal justice system and its rules at every step. Look at how he reacts to Dexter breaking into places to illegally gather evidence.
Blood. How easy is this? You know, it takes me 2 days to get a search warrant, then another day to catalog evidence, and then a week before I can get the lab results. This is definitely the way to go.
Directly taking out people who he believes are guilty is liberating to him, which is great as long as his moral compass exactly aligns with Dexter's. But it doesn't. Miguel tells Dexter there's someone on his wish hit list, a defense attorney named Ellen Wolf.
Blood-sucking, soulless defense attorney, Ellen Wolf!
Her biggest crime is that she's a woman. Okay, let's be fair to Miguel. Miguel supposedly hates her for always getting her clients free, but I swear there's a little misogyny in there when he talks about her.
You might as well be walking the street the way you make a living.
Okay, enough.
He treats all of the women characters kind of weirdly, to be honest. He completely ignores his wife and then throws complimentary platitudes at Rita when she tries to confront him about it.
Apparently, I'm a very wise person, according to Miguel.
Really? You're a wise person, aren't you?
And we talked for a while. He said he thinks I could
Save his life.
save his life.
I think you're gonna save my life.
Every word. Bullshit.
After Dexter turns down their next group project, Miguel decides to secretly pursue it solo. To Dexter, he just killed an innocent person, so he's gotta go. Meanwhile, Miami Metro is looking into a series of skinnings. Deborah spends the season trying to catch the guy, only for Dexter to kill him in the most fuck it way possible. Gravity! Just drop him on top of the cars driving in. They won't ask any questions. Miami Metro caught a serial killer for once. Take the win, right? We also meet a new character, Quinn.
Sugar is so much better than the artificial stuff, don't you think? Yeah, I guess. You like my...
Season 4's main villain is Trinity, aka Arthur Mitchell. This is the guy. If there's anyone who could rival Dexter's brother in how scary, interesting, and well written they are, it's him. Trinity is a serial killer who's been active for over 30 years, killing in cycles of 3. A young woman by bleeding her out in a bathtub, a mom by forcing her to commit suicide, and a dad by bludgeoning him to death. We learn in episode 8 that he's recreating the deaths of his sister, mother, and father during his formative years. Like some sick, twisted version of OCD, his mind literally obsessing on reliving the trauma over and over again.
Drink up. You're next.
After having a child of his own with Rita, named Harrison, the season starts with Dexter as a suburban dad who's stretched thin.
Dexter Morgan. Good suburban husband. Happy father of 3. On paper, anyway.
He has no clue how to juggle his new family life with his serial killing, and giving your kids an iPad hasn't been invented yet. So when he discovers that Trinity has a family with 2 kids, Dexter thinks he can learn something from him.
He's like me.
If Arthur Mitchell can have it all, why not Dexter?
We really can't have it all.
He befriends him under an alias, Kyle Butler, and worms his way into Arthur's life in hopes of applying some lessons to his own. Unfortunately, he learns about 9 episodes in that Arthur's family is completely fucked, with every member having some horrific combination of abject fear and Stockholm Syndrome for the man.
And she's not your goddamn prisoner, she's not 8 anymore.
After Arthur figures out Dexter's true intentions, he discovers Dexter's real name and identity in one of the most oh shit moments of the series.
Hello, Dexter Morgan.
Anyway, Dexter's like, fuck, he knows about me now. What do? I gotta stop making mistakes. Then he makes like 3 more mistakes.
Gotta go.
But it's fine. He gets his family to leave town, sets up a trap, and takes him out.
Hello, Arthur Mitchell.
Dexter dumps Trinity's body and returns to what he believes is an empty house. But then, he hears his son crying from the other room. To his horror, he discovers that Rita, having forgotten something, returned home. She was killed by Trinity, and his son was left alive, sitting in his mother's blood. Just like Dexter. And that's the horror of this ending. Dexter played too fast and loose with a dangerously competent serial killer, and this is him paying the price. After 3 perfectly bow-wrapped seasons, this one is like being dunked in ice water. It's the highest rated episode of the series for a reason. We also meet a new character, Quinn.
Sounds exciting, Sarge, but I think I'm gonna hold that.
Season 5 has Jordan Chase and his cam friends. After Rita is killed, Dexter feels aimless until he discovers a captive girl inside the house of one of his kill targets. Her name is Lumen Pierce, which is a pretty decent pun.
What are you doing?
It's luminol.
Luminol.
No relation.
He discovers that she's part of a long line of women who were abducted by the same group of men. I know this seems like there are a lot of serial killers in Miami, but they're more common than you think. Some small towns have as many as 30 serial killers. My source for that is Riverdale. Miami Metro calls this the Barrel Girls case because the other girls, who have since been murdered, were preserved in barrels of formaldehyde. The police discover these barrels after someone tried to transport them to hide the evidence, but one of the Dexter writers used their Deus Ex Machina for the season card to give them a car accident. Dexter and Lumen team up to take out the group of men responsible for this. Their leader is a motivational speaker and future alt-right podcaster, Jordan Chase. Dexter signs up for private counseling sessions with Jordan for important lessons that I assume include standing up straight and cleaning his room.
Is that their mind? You know, I could say, well, if you want to organize your psyche.
Jordan can feel a bit inconsistent as a main villain, but he does have this one legitimately scary line when he reveals that he knows that Lumen is still alive and partnering with Dexter.
Tell him I'm just checking in and I'd like him to schedule another appointment.
Okay.
Tell him time is of the essence. Take care, Lumen.
Aside from that, I can't really get past him looking like a dark side John Mulaney. The season culminates in a confrontation between Lumen, Dexter, and Jordan Chase. We also meet a new character, Quinn.
To me, it's always seemed...
There's a side plot where Quinn hires a PI to investigate Dexter, but then Quinn falls in love with Deborah, so when the PI actually discovers damning evidence of Dexter and Lumen killing people, Quinn does the detective version of covering his ears and going, la 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 la.
What do you say?
Stay the fuck away from me. And stay the fuck away from Dexter.
Anyway, Dexter kills the PI, Quinn ironically becomes a suspect, the whole thing goes nowhere. Season 6 has the Doomsday Killers. Or is it Killer? They hit the reveal so well. I'm going to mostly ignore the gigantic writing quality dip for now and just focus on the plot. Season 6 of Dexter is all about religion, which includes a pair of killers who are trying to bring about the end of the world by replicating murderous tableaus from the Bible. It is the most subtle part of the religion theme this season.
What would Jesus have done?
What do you believe in, Mr. Mullen?
You don't want to make God mad.
We'll get to that. The killers are Professor Geller and student Travis Marshall. At least until episode 9, where it's revealed that Geller's been dead the whole time, and that Travis is hallucinating him while doing the murders himself. Look, I respect the attempt to do a good twist, but this one dragged on for way too long while being too obvious. In a show where Dexter imagines and has full conversations with ghosts from his past, everyone on Reddit somehow figured out that the main villain, Travis, might be doing the same thing with the professor that no one else sees or interacts with. Meanwhile, Deborah has a truly terrible side plot where she attends counseling with the world's worst therapist, who victim blames her for being romanced by a sociopath, and then convinces her that her familial love for her brother is actually her wanting to bone him.
It would be understandable for you to develop complex feelings for him.
We'll get to that too. And by get to that, I mean I literally consulted a therapist to get a professional's opinion on just how fucked Deborah's therapist is. Deborah's B-plot ends up colliding with Dexter's A-plot at the very end of the season when she catches him murdering Travis Marshall, and the episode ends with the only good religion joke all season.
Oh God.
Season 7's villain is Isaac Serko, a Russian mob leader involved in drugs and sex trafficking. Dexter kills his lover as his episode 1 kill of the week in the least plausible way yet. We also meet Hannah McKay, who's Dexter's fourth and by far worst love interest of his. The writing at this point has gotten consistently clunky and awkward, leading to scenes that are supposed to demonstrate this inexplicable, palpable chemistry between Dexter and Hannah, and instead we just get
Wayne called her the Robin to his Batman, but with better legs.
First time Wayne killed somebody, he shot him right in the chest.
First crime scene I ever worked, a woman stabbed her husband after fixing him a sandwich.
Look at us talking blood and gore like we're on a date sharing our first sexual experience.
Bonk! Hannah poisons a true crime writer who was onto her, which upsets Deb, who was dating him. Oh, you're probably wondering what happened with Dexter and Deb. We'll get to it when we talk about season 7, but the TLDR is that she was very upset for 3 episodes and then she got over it.
We're all responsible adults, right? You will live your life, I'll live mine, and Hannah will live Hannah's.
Great.
Then, she actually asked Dexter to kill Hannah, someone who's managed to repeatedly skirt the law while murdering several people, perfectly fitting his code. But Dexter is dating Hannah, and he can't tell Deb, so he's like, "No, I promised not to involve you in this. You would never be able to live with yourself if I killed Hannah." And Deb is like, "Why do you have an erection?" Hannah tries to poison Deborah because it's her only method of conflict resolution. She's a warlock throwing eldritch blasts at her problems. She gets caught and breaks out of prison. See you in season 8. Lastly, LaGuerta is onto Dexter being the Bay Harbor Butcher, as well as Deb's recent involvement. Dexter tries to kill her because it's his only method of conflict resolution. He's a software dev throwing print statements at the problem. I guess that makes Harry Stack Overflow, because he has a code.
I built my life on Harry's code.
This all culminates on New Year's Eve. Deborah finds him just as he's about to do it, and she's like, "Just use a debugger." And Dexter's like, "I'm sorry, Deb. It's just too complicated."
Stop! Do it, Deborah. Shoot him. Do it! Shoot him!
It's true. You're a good person. Do what you gotta do.
Thanks.
How the fuck did Deborah miss Dexter? All in all, Isaac was cool, and LaGuerta had what was probably her best season. She tried to be big brain but overplayed her hand, forgetting that the show was renewed for season 8. Side note, season 8, the final season, is a special kind of bad, so I had a watch party with friends who've never seen it and captured their live audio reactions. I'll be peppering clips all throughout this video.
Maria always had it in her office. I want you to have it to remember her by.
That's an appropriate face.
Nice.
The new big bad is called the Brain Surgeon. Given the fact that this is the last season of a show with some truly iconic big bads, you'd expect him to be one of the best, right? The high status of Jordan Peter Chase, the intelligence of Lundy, the psychopathy of Brian, and the gravitas of Trinity. Any combination of those would be great, right? Any one of those would be plenty. I can't wait to see it.
That guy Cassie was dating.
We're also introduced to Dexter's new mommy, Dr. Evelyn Vogel. She's a psychopathy expert who helped Harry create the code. You know those weirdos who actually answer questions on Stack Overflow? That's her! Her existence also rewrites the Dexter canon. His upbringing goes from a cop who cares about his adopted child and is way out of his depth regarding his dark urges that come from his trauma, hones those urges instead of seeking help out of fear he might lose his child, to a cop does consult with a doctor about his adopted son's trauma, and a literal neuropsychiatrist who specializes in psychopathy has decided that grooming a 10-year-old to kill bad guys is a pretty good idea, actually. We go from a complicated, sympathetic situation, a parent being afraid of outing their child, to a contrived, unsympathetic one, a psychiatrist training a child to murder as a quirky experiment.
It's a funny goof.
Deborah spends half the season crashing out and getting psych treatment from Vogel. I'm surprised she didn't convince her to be a killer.
You knew the moment you pointed that gun at LaGuerta, it was wrong. And still, you pulled the trigger.
Oh, Deborah meant to shoot her? I gotta edit like half the script. The show takes over half of its last season just to even mildly focus on the brain surgeon, taking episodes worth of detours to focus on the room temperature sexual tension between Dexter and Hannah. Oh yeah, Hannah comes back. It sucks.
I feel kind of dizzy.
Deb?
Hannah. This is how she comes back. She comes back. She comes just say hi.
And to make it worse, the brain surgeon is by far the least interesting main villain. He gets nearly no screen time, the least development or motivations, and no interesting scenes with Dexter. There's nothing clever or noteworthy about his approach or his MO. Dexter is just bad at catching non-villains of the week now.
He's good at this.
And this guy is the last villain we get in all of Dexter. He's supposed to be the big closer. I don't need to explain why this is bad, right? Basically, every show has some big story arc or villain that they more or less save for the last season. Homeland had looming nuclear war. Better Call Saul had Lalo. Game of Thrones had The Long Night. Buffy had the original evil and also Joss Whedon. It gives the audience something to let us know that we're barreling towards some powerful conclusion, that this season is different from the other ones. With Dexter, what makes this season different from all the others? If it wasn't for what happens in the last episode, you could swap this season's villain and main plots with basically any other. They don't matter on the timeline. It's just nothing. It's a 12-hour waste of... Okay, I need to control myself. It's easy for me to explain why the latter seasons are bad, and it feels like nowadays that's all anyone ever talks about. But there's a whole other half of the show. It's worth explaining what made the early season so good and what they accomplished for the larger story. It makes what the show becomes that much more tragic. So let's do that. Seasons 1 through 3 of Dexter are pretty classic, even if they're imperfect. They all inform on the character of Dexter, which Season 4 ends up capitalizing on in a truly genius way. Let's take a look at the seasons holistically and delve into the dreary details of Dexter's depravity. In Season 1, we have adult Dexter in his initial state. He has the perfect camouflage of a life, a full-time job, plausible hobbies, a sister who cares about him, a girlfriend. He's making it clear to us that these are all necessary components to maintain his disguise, and that he doesn't actually care about any of it.
People fake a lot of human interactions, but I feel like I fake them all. But I have to play the game. And after years of trying to look normal, I think I met the right woman for me.
Then, the status quo is threatened by the first main villain, the Istra Killer. Despite the obvious risk, Dexter chooses to engage with him. Why? Because this person sees Dexter. He understands him. We see the first instance of Dexter wanting to be accepted as a human being. Ever since his father died, Dexter has had to hide his true self from everyone in his life.
Ever since Harry's death, I've been alone.
So he's willing to pursue something real, something that isn't camouflage, dangerous or not. It's not really about his brother, it's about being accepted, being seen. In the end, however, he chooses Deborah over El Hermano. Why? Is the supposed farce of a life he created worth more to him than the promise of a true one with Gradian? And the answer is yes. Because it's not a farce. It's something Dexter values in and of itself. And in case there's any ambiguity about that, the ending of Season 1 makes it completely obvious. It isn't Dexter imagining a life with El Hermano, it's him imagining the public cheering him on for his heroic acts of homicide.
Way to take out the trash. Thanks, buddy.
Congratulations! Congratulations! Congratulations!
Congratulations! When Rita's scumbag ex-husband shows up and starts threatening Rita, Dexter breaks several laws, going berserker mode and dosing him with heroin so that he goes back to jail. That's not a risk worth taking if he's dating Rita purely for the appearance. This is why Dexter goes to Narcotics Anonymous in Season 2, by the way. Rita discovers what he did after Paul dies in jail, and her only question is, where'd you get the heroin?
But they were your drugs. Now it makes sense.
This is Dexter's first big step, realizing that the life he created isn't just camouflage, it's something he cares about. And the decision to say no to his brother says a lot about Dexter's character. Sure, he sees himself as an emotionless killer whose only purpose is to kill, but he's not. Brian is.
I don't have feelings about anything, but if I could have feelings at all, I'd have them for Deb.
Dexter is a regular guy who was thoroughly traumatized as a child and then was given a fucked up way to cope with the feelings. He doesn't have no emotions. He's learned to suppress them out of fear that he's doing something wrong.
I mean, that doctor didn't even see the monster inside you. I mean, not monsters, just son, you know that you have these dark urges.
Thanks, Harry. You nailed it. And the fact that Dexter chose Deborah is proof of that. His life means something to him. The regular guy underneath it all doesn't want it to disappear.
Because lately, there are these moments when I feel connected to something else, someone.
But here's the catch. Having feelings doesn't automatically give you the skills to navigate them. And he only really begins to try as an adult when people expect you to handle emotional conflicts with a nuance you've developed over a lifetime.
You're having a funeral for Paul? Yeah, the county will bury Paul for free. He wasn't even your husband. Anymore. Technically.
Dexter, I didn't ask for your help or your advice.
And without those skills, that's hard. You want to say the right thing, but you flounder and make it worse. Like when you're doming a non-binary sub and you don't know whether to say good boy or good girl, so you say good person, and now they're crying. So that's what Season 1 teaches us. And it gives Dexter a new goal, being more connected emotionally to the people in his life, to let a real part of himself, no matter how small, be seen, out in the open. That sounds hard to do, though. If only he could find someone who's been doing that for like 30 years. I'm writing this paragraph in 2009, before Season 4 airs. In Season 2, we see Dexter's own sense of self and morality being questioned. After people find the bodies he's dumped into the ocean, law enforcement pretty quickly figures out that basically everyone on the list is a confirmed or suspected murderer. This sparks a heated debate over the morality of the butcher. Is a murderer just a murderer no matter what? Is it more complicated when the victims themselves are killers or molesters or healthcare Wait, why is that in the script? Some are convinced that this killer is a righteous vigilante and even dub him the Dark Defender. Others, including Deborah's boyfriend/boss, it's complicated, say that murder is murder. This guy has no right to play God. He's a monster. FBI Special Agent Lundy, one of the best characters in the show, says to Dexter that there's only one justification for murder.
To save an innocent life.
Side effect or not, Dexter's murders have saved many lives. Dexter also has to lie to Rita about having a heroin addiction after she finds out about his gambit for her ex-husband, Paul, to get caught mid-Jesse floating in Breaking Bad to get sent back to jail permanently. At Narcotics Anonymous, he uses heroin to talk about his desire to kill as an addiction.
When he's driving, I feel alive. I don't fight him. I don't want to. He's all I've got.
He's always seen his father's code as an unshakable tenet of reality, but he learns that his father killed himself after witnessing firsthand what Dexter had become.
It was me. Harry walked in on what he created, and he couldn't live with himself. I killed my father.
Really think about that. From a young age, his dad was the one person he could rely on, someone who he's leaned on countless times in his youth and helped him manage what seemed like life-ruining, insurmountable urges. In Dexter's eyes, Harry is the reason why Dexter isn't on death row.
The code is more than that. It's kept me from getting caught. It's given me a life.
Harry is basically the only person in the world who Dexter could feel like they truly loved him because no one else could possibly know about that other side of Dexter.
Remember this forever. You are not alone, and you are loved.
And yet, when Harry came face to face with the culmination of his own code, he couldn't handle it, and he left Dexter completely alone because of it. Harry didn't just die, he abandoned him. Each one of these things are a challenge to Dexter's morality. Until now, he's never interrogated the ethics of what he does, its analog to addiction, or its effect on the one who raised him. It's a lot.
And then maybe I'll tackle world hunger because things can't really get much worse.
And lastly, Dexter has been forced to imprison Dokes, who caught on to him as the Butcher. And in the midst of this moral hurricane clusterfuck, he now has to decide whether or not he should break his own code to kill Dokes and keep himself safe. Now look, I have a little moral crisis every time I buy beef at the supermarket, so I can definitely relate to Dexter's plight. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, the writers chicken out of this final critical moral dilemma. Dexter never has to choose between killing Dokes, setting him free, and trying to frame him. Lila takes care of that for him. If I wake up in the middle of the night to find my ex swapping my Impossible meat with Billy Slaughter and Fodder ground chuck, I can't just go, damn, that's crazy, and go back to sleep ethically sound. Yes, you could argue that Dexter was intending to frame Dokes, but he also contemplated turning himself in for like an episode and a half. Lila took away his agency as a main character. She also roofies herself.
Jesus.
Someone should have bonked Batista before it was too late. La Pasión was too strong. But overall, the season is still one of the show's best. We learn about the complicated feelings Dexter has towards his dark passenger, and Harry's suicide really does feel like a character-defining punch to the gut. Dexter, having to interrogate the morality of his dark passenger for the first time, is forced to grow. Finally, Season 3 shows us Dexter's desire for companionship, for friendship. If Season 1 was about work-life balance, this one is about finding someone at your job you can send offensive memes to. Miguel Prado eventually learns about Dexter's dark compulsions and doesn't shy away from them. In fact, he wants to participate, a little bit like El Hermano, which is ironic because Dexter killed El Hermano and also Miguel's Hermano. Dexter knows that teaming up with Miguel is a bad idea.
I didn't teach you the code to share with your buddies. I taught you the code to keep you alive. You don't get to have friends, Dexter. Nothing good can come out of this.
But he pursues it anyway, because this is a chance for him to have someone close in his life that he doesn't hide from, someone he hasn't had since Harry. Within a few episodes, they go from polite conversations to Dexter asking Miguel to be his best man. And when Dexter finds out that Miguel played him, using him to learn how to murder people on his own, this is Dexter's internal response.
I didn't create a monster, I was used by one. He used me.
We've basically never seen Dexter that mad before, and it's because he never let anyone get close to him and then hurt him like that before. He's experiencing the drama of a betrayed friendship for the first time in his entire life, something you're supposed to experience in the 8th grade and get out of your system. Miguel was an opportunity for him to combine those two disparate sides of himself, to have a close friend that he can share everything with. And that desire let him make some costly mistakes, causing an innocent lawyer to die in the process. Season 4 is gonna up those consequences ever so slightly. By the way, you might be wondering, wait, isn't Dexter's dad dead? How are they talking in all these scenes? Well, in Season 3, Episode 2, Dexter uses the Urn of Osiris to perform a resurrection spell, and no, I'm just kidding. That's Ghost Harry. Dexter, that's not a better answer. It's Ghost Harry, obviously, you idiot. What's wrong with you? You don't know about Ghost Harry? Dexter imagines his dad as part of his conscience. I thought I'd confuse the non-Dexter viewers by just not explaining Ghost Harry until the very end, but I think it's been long enough. It's just a writing device to show us what Dexter's thoughts are versus what his dad's code had taught him. At least, it starts like that, but it eventually suffers from bad writing the same way everything else does.
Hey, what's going on? You cut me off.
Oh my god. Happy
You lost control out there, Dexter. Saxon must have spotted you. Saxon must have spotted you.
Each of these seasons have taught us something different about Dexter and helped define his future motivations. And in a stroke of genius, the writers used that as the basis for one of the best seasons in all of television. Let's talk about season 4. Part 4, Dexter's best season. People often debate which season of Dexter is better, 1 or 4. I'm going to argue it's 4, and here's why. While season 1 has more interesting moments, Dexter's backstory, El Hermano, Dokes' confrontation,
in a cargo box,
season 4 has good moments and provides a true character arc for Dexter. The crux to any good story is character-driven choices and their consequences. Keep that fact in mind. It'll be catastrophically important later. By the end of season 1, the only real consequence of Dexter choosing Deborah is that El Hermano is gone about 24 hours after learning about him. But season 4 of Dexter is a much more direct exploration into Dexter's character, his flaws, and the consequences of those flaws. At the start of season 4, Dexter is in a difficult situation. He originally got a girlfriend to help blend in, but he accidentally caught feelings for her and forgot to sneak birth control pills into her food.
Oh, shit.
What?
I've done this before.
What do you mean?
I'm pregnant.
Here's some practical birth control advice. Wear 5 condoms at the start of sex, and every time you finish, take the top one off. He's now trying to balance a new baby, 2 stepkids, a committed relationship, his job, and his extracurricular activities. Harry never taught him how to handle any of this. People tend to rely on their parents or friends for relationship guidance, but Harry spent all of his time neglecting Doris while teaching Dexter how to lie on psychiatric tests.
He asked you a question. I want you to think of your answer first, and then tell him the exact opposite.
Does it make you angry when your teachers tell you what to do?
No.
Have you ever killed an animal?
No.
Dexter actively struggles with his new life. In episode 1, he's so sleep deprived he gets in a car accident. In episode 2, he struggles to remember where he hid a body. So when he stumbles upon Arthur Mitchell, a multi-decade-long serial killer who has a wife and 2 kids, he's desperate for guidance. Using a pseudonym, he becomes friends with Arthur, and he gets good advice at first. Arthur's trophies are plaques from the house-building charity he participates in. He gets rid of a murder weapon by generously giving it to Dexter, and he keeps his kids busy with a litany of extracurricular activities. There's a crucial episode where Arthur takes Dexter to his childhood home and, in a strange manic state, tells Dexter about his trauma.
I startled her and she slipped. The glass sliced her leg.
We learn that Arthur is behaving this way because he's planning on dying tomorrow. At dawn, Arthur tries to jump off of a partially built house. However, Dexter has been following him and stops his fall.
This isn't how you die.
Dexter wanted to be the one to kill Arthur, which paradoxically makes him save Arthur's life. By the time Dexter decides, if I let him go now, it counts as a kill, others are already there to help him. Later that episode, he intentionally saves Arthur from getting a DNA swab that would have let the police catch him.
On the radio, the police are looking for some huge serial killer. Let's say we take the scenic route.
He's letting a serial killer escape justice because he wants to do it himself.
I have to be the one to kill him.
Hope that works out for you, dude. After some bonding, Dexter guilts out an invite to Arthur Mitchell's Thanksgiving, using his usual sad boy charm.
It's my first Thanksgiving without my family, and I didn't know what to do with myself.
And it's during this Thanksgiving episode where we see how Arthur was the worst possible role model for Dexter. Remember how Dexter called his sister and girlfriend camouflage in season 1? This is what it looks like when you actually treat your family like they're camouflage.
Oh God, he locks his daughter in here.
I'll do anything you want.
Well,
I'm begging you. Don't tell him.
what else will he do to Jonah if I leave?
Arthur's terrorized them into maintaining his cover. They're nothing but human shields.
And when the family tries to eke out the tiniest bit of rebellion by not mentioning him when they say what they're thankful for, we see the monster come out.
Did you say you were thankful for me, Jonah?
What's that?
I did not say I was thankful for you. Because I'm not.
I am so thankful for you, Arthur.
Shut up, cunt.
From there, it quickly escalates into Arthur trying to kill his own son. Dexter manages to save the son by apprehending Arthur, but in exchange, Dexter reveals his own monster.
I should have fucking killed you when I had the chance.
Here's some practical domestic abuse advice. Say you're thankful for Arthur, but be thinking of the TV show.
It's not my fault if you made a plane that can't fly. I told you not to touch it!
You're killing us!
When Dexter attends his own Thanksgiving,
I'm thankful for Dexter.
Let's eat.
The contrast is clear. He treats his family like a family. There was never anything to learn from Trinity. Dexter and Trinity chase after one another for a few episodes. Unfortunately, one slip-up is all it takes for Trinity to figure out who Dexter really is, which is what leads us to this terrifying scene.
Hello, Dexter Morgan.
Make way!
This is the moment where Dexter should have stopped. Your urge to kill is now secondary to your life not getting irreversibly fucked. Put Arthur Mitchell on the police's radar and let Miami Metro capture a bad guy while they're still alive. But he doesn't do that. He needs to fix this himself. He gets Rita and the kids out of town and continues poking the bear, catches him, and takes him out. Great. Why is there 4 minutes left in the episode? Rita left Dexter a voicemail saying she forgot her passport, so she and Harrison have to run back home to grab it. Trinity was there, and he murdered Rita by having her bleed out in a bathtub. There's something tragic and poetic about the thing that killed Rita being something as innocuous as forgetting her passport at home. It's a small mistake made at a crucial moment, but Dexter hid those stakes from Rita. It's one lesson Arthur could never have taught him. Once you have a family, there are now entire beings that you care about that are out of your control. They will make mistakes that you cannot account for. It's a clever, tragic bit of cause and effect, and it involves, and I checked this, 0 treadmills. If Dexter told Rita the truth, even just a sliver of it, Rita would have known not to go home. But Dexter wanted it all, a dual life as a devoted suburban dad and a killer who plays with fire. The fact of the matter is, if this hadn't happened with Trinity, it would have happened with someone else. This season did everything season 2 chickened out of doing. It gave Dexter a series of choices, forced him to follow through on them, and gave him story-altering consequences. There's no Lila to stumble upon Dexter's secret cabin and Deus Ex Machina Trinity for him.
If Angel molested me, as the evidence seems to indicate, then he should face the consequences.
Shut up, cunt.
It's just Dexter repeatedly choosing to spend time with Arthur instead of killing him, actively helping him avoid getting caught, and then endangering himself and his family by insisting that he be the one to kill Arthur. You can't just do that.
You can't do that. People need rules.
You can't just be so repeatedly sloppy and careless around a serial killer as intelligent and experienced as Trinity. Something bad will happen, and it does. Not a close call, not a scary confrontation, but the permanent destruction of the very thing Dexter was trying to protect. His family. Rita is gone, his stepkids are in shambles, and Harrison's upbringing is tainted the same way Dexter's was. He couldn't protect anyone in the end, and it was his own selfishness that did it.
Rita's inside. It was me.
Was it selfishness, though? What makes it a tragedy is that, yes, there's an element of hubris in Dexter's actions, but the majority of his motivation comes from a very reasonable desire to have guidance for his life as a husband and father, something that Harry couldn't give him, something that almost no one could understand. Dexter was afraid that he couldn't manage being a family man and a serial killer, so when he saw someone who was, he clung onto that. It's the perfect culmination of everything Dexter experienced over the first 3 seasons, his desire to be connected to his normal life, to be able to coexist with his dark passenger, and for someone who he can share this aspect of himself with, either directly or by proxy. Seasons 1 through 3 inform on why Dexter made these decisions, why he acted the way that he did. That's what makes Rita's death about 1 billion times more impactful than any other character death in Dexter. Her death was earned, completely and truly. It was surprising, yet inevitable. Quinn is also in this season. In a cargo box? In a cargo box? Cargo box?
Better have a hell of a reason for being here.
I'm looking for my sister.
In a cargo box? Many people will say that the show fell off after season 4. They'll point to some of the writers changing or the showrunner changing for the first time, which is fair, but I think season 5 gets an undeservedly bad rap. Season 5 is, in many ways, better than season 3, and certainly has a better written ending than season 2.
Do you understand this is murder?
Season 5 isn't as tightly written as 4, definitely, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It manages to earn what I think is a very difficult character arc, restoring Dexter. Dexter ultimately heals from the trauma of losing his wife by making Lumen, one of the Barrel Girl's victims, whole again. He goes from feeling aimless, like his kills don't mean anything anymore, to finding someone who he could share himself with and make a difference for. And the best part is, the person he picked isn't Miguel Prado.
Well then fuck you!
Lumen is the best partner he has in the show, both in terms of a relationship and in terms of someone who he can kill people with.
Can anyone live with the truth of what I am?
He's able to be way more open with her than he was with Rita, and her motive to kill is a lot easier to sympathize with than Hannah's fuck it, give him a roofie approach. Part of me is disappointed that Lumen never showed up again after season 5. Like, Chekhov's Lumen, where is she? Season 5 also has one of the funniest scenes in the show. In episode 6, Dexter has to help Lumen with an unexpected kill while he's transporting a kill of his own. Deb and Masuka are also called onto the scene after a bystander heard gunshots. Dexter, being unable to hide the bodies in time, stages them in a bizarre way to make it look like they killed each other. Masuka sees it and, being the encyclopedia of perversion he is, immediately has a theory.
I know exactly what happened. 2 words. Autoerotic mummification. Mr. Plastic Man shot Captain Bloody Underpants while Underpants was in mid-choke.
In a true moment of comedy, Dexter's calm, rational, calculated monologue plays over Masuka's explanation and whatever the fuck he's doing here.
Thanks to Masuka's keen expertise, Deborah will be able to close this case.
This bit alone justifies the entire season, in my opinion. The season contains the first Quinn plot that's even a little noteworthy. I keep making fun of him because his character is just so bland. I've rewatched the show like 10 times, and I'm still surprised to see Quinn in seasons 3 and 4. Oh yeah, he dated that girl who's related to Trinity, I guess. He feels like a new character the writers haven't done much with yet, all the way through to season 8. Him being suspicious of the circumstances surrounding Rita's death is probably the first and only good detective instinct he has the entire show. And LaGuerta berates him so hard for it, he permanently loses IQ points.
Try. And when I say no, Quinn, it's over.
Hey, I know what you're doing.
Quinn.
You playing detective? Watching Zach?
Yeah, you caught me.
I'm going to see Jamie. Keep an eye on Zach.
Worst detective.
This is why you didn't get Sergeant.
And lastly, the closing monologue of season 5 feels like classic Dexter. It's bittersweet and poignant.
Lumen said I gave her life back, and I'm left not with what she took from me, but with what she brought. While she was here, she made me think for the briefest moment that I might even have a chance to be human.
Make a wish. Make a wish.
But wishes, of course, are for children.
Damn, dude. I mean, like, yeah. I would argue that the biggest flaw of the season is that it plays it safe. Although you can see it as a better version of season 3 felt like a bigger risk, whereas season 5 feels like retreading existing territory, but with Jordan Chase as an antagonist rather than Lumen herself. If you want the real answer to when the writing got legitimately bad, the answer is easy. Huh. I thought I put a title card here. Never mind. It's season 6. Season 6 is when... After season 5, the showrunner position changed again, this time to Scott Buck, pictured here as what I'm guessing is an 80s cop whose son just came out to him. Scott ran the show for the last 3 seasons, in a decision some people would describe as bad. Scott Buck is also known for showrunning the Marvel series Inhumans, which is notorious for being the worst Marvel TV show of all time. I even found an article explaining why it was so bad, and that it was definitively worse than Iron Fist, which is the other contender for worst Marvel show. But Adam, that's subjective. I've seen Iron Fist, and I doubt any Marvel show is as bad as that one. And that's a fair point. Which is why it's extra funny that Scott Buck executive produced Iron Fist. Why do studios hire him so many times when it's clear that Scott Buck sucks? Well, because Scott Buck saves big bucks. He's known for getting things done on time and under budget. An easy accomplishment when your CG effects look like this.
Lockjaw, take me to Black Bolt and the others. No. Lockjaw.
Season 6 is when Scott first starts running Dexter, and he begins to power up. From episode 1, one thing is obvious. The writing is off. The characters feel wrong, the dialogue is clunky and exposition heavy, and the plot staggers between by the numbers and on the nose. For those who've seen Game of Thrones, do you remember how the characters felt different once the series ran out of books to adapt?
Because I have bowls. You don't.
Like, you can feel the writers trying to safely emulate the characters, ChatGPT style, rather than embody them and try to follow their journey. Season 6 is where that happens to Dexter. The writing doesn't really try to flesh out Dexter anymore, it just approximates him and everyone else based on the first 5 seasons, and fits them all around a predetermined structure. As a thought experiment, let's say you have to write a passable Dexter episode in 24 hours from scratch. What are some things you would try to include, just to make it look right? Well, we see his inner monologue be funny sometimes, in a dry humor way, so maybe that. We also see his struggle to fit in and to be normal during the first few seasons, so let's get that in there too. Maria should do something backstabby, the big bad should do something visually memorable. And Deborah's a cop, so have her shoot someone. Then, channeling our inner fanfic writer, just cram the rest of the episode with flashy moments and wish fulfillment. Do you have that list in your mind? Okay, let's take a brief look at just the first episode.
911, what's your emergency?
I've been stabbed.
Can you tell me your location?
Please, I need help.
It opens with Dexter needling 2 people at the same time. It's the serial killer version of a threesome, and something you might see on AO3. In the same episode, Dexter attends his high school reunion. In it, Dexter's inexplicably popular, subtly injures the high school quarterback while beating him at sports, and gets blown in a classroom by the most popular girl in class. To paraphrase my guidance counselor, life is but a dojin waiting to happen. Okay, moving through the checklist, we do have Dexter's internal monologue delivering jokes and telling us how he feels like he's not fitting in, but none of it lands correctly. First of all, he breaks the fourth wall to do a Marvel joke.
Dexter!
Hey, Jamie. It's not what you're thinking.
Hey, Dex.
It's really not what you're thinking.
That's him directly addressing the audience. He's never done that before. It's jarring, and it's done in service of a cliched one-liner. And here's how they emulate Dexter's alien perspective of regular people's social behaviors.
It's hammer time!
I have no idea what hammer time is, or how it differs from regular time.
How did this line meant for Sheldon in The Big Bang Theory end up here? Hammer time? I'll have you know that hammers don't have chronological perception. This isn't him painfully stumbling through some work-mandated icebreaker. It's just him being purposefully obtuse about the name of a dance they're clearly doing, which he then does flawlessly, because he's such a special boy!
He's good at this.
If you want a better example of Dexter's inability to connect with others, there's this scene from season 1.
Maybe if I don't blink, my eyes will tear up.
Oh, and a small thing. He knows what hammer time is!
He was arrested for murder. He even confessed to his cellmate. He called it hammer time.
Maybe he thought they were all Clemson Galt's friends. The rest of the dialogue has gotten worse too. It's committing cardinal sins of writing that most first-year script editors would catch, let alone anyone working at fucking Showtime. The dialogue isn't just full of clunky exposition. There are some scenes that are literally nothing but that. This scene between LaGuerta and Matthews is just, aren't you glad that I blackmailed you into promoting me? I understand now why you got divorced off screen. Yeah, crazy. Okay, bye.
Do you want some exposition?
There's also this god-awful cliched way that the writers tell us that 2 people are siblings, and they do it twice in a row.
I know we didn't grow up together, but I'm your sister, you don't.
Travis, we used to be so close. We used to talk and do things. So let me spend an evening with my baby brother.
I cannot tell you how many places, not to ding on anybody else, you know, if they got this script that we wrote, they'd be like, you have to have the scene where Jimmy says to Chuck, Chuck, how long have we been brothers?
There are jokes that are basically just characters delivering quips aloud to themselves, acting like they're characters in a 90s sitcom.
I'm gonna sneak back to my reunion. I got a big flag football game to suit up for.
Did I just hear him right?
It all reads like first drafts that they never refined. On time and under budget! Next on the list is a big bad who does something visually memorable. This one is the easiest to get right, and they still stumbled a bit by using CGI snakes that don't quite look real. Is there anything else on our checklist? Oh, the thing with Deb. Okay, anyway, there you go. A Dexter episode that supposedly hits all of the beats, indistinguishable from a novice writer's horny spec script. The main gray sludge in the shape of a Krabby Patty this season is in the form of its main villain, and the corresponding religious theme. But I do have one more complaint before I get to that. The season introduces a new character, Lewis, who is supposed to be a tech-savvy intern. This happens after Masuka hires a different intern and, in a fit of horniness, shows off stuff from their evidence room, giving her the idea to steal and sell it.
This is the Hystra Killer's hospital ID.
So they hire computer wizard Lewis next. I'm actually in tech. so I can confirm that the stuff they have him say is offensive.
Google's kind of 5 minutes ago, right? Try Elliot. Yeah, it uses a targeted algorithm to aggregate content without getting tripped up by all that sneaky SEO bullshit.
Intern Puppy Dog has skills.
I don't know about you guys, but that felt like a hate crime.
I think this is offensive.
The technology angles become especially stupid starting in season 6. My favorite moment is when Lewis identifies an IP address that a suspect used, so they go and confront the source.
Yeah, that's my IP address, but it's unsecured.
Okay, this is clearly just a regular guy. So let me ask you, viewer, do you know your IP address by memory? You might as well have shown him a picture of some DNA and have him say, yep, that's my genome. But it's unsecured.
Well, I wrote this song for the Christian youth. I want to teach kids the Christian truth.
Scott said in an interview that season 6 of Dexter will explore Dexter's spirituality. The season explores it with the same subtlety as putting a condom on during a parent-teacher conference.
What would Jesus have done?
God is in control.
What do you believe in, Mr. Morgan?
Sounds like you're trying to get me to go to church.
If an 8th grader tasked with writing a story containing religious symbolism did any of this, the teacher would tell him that it's a little on the nose.
Please stop.
And here we are, being treated to a full season of it. God help us. Wait, look. I like this idea in theory. Every season of Dexter has been exploring a different piece of him. His relationship to his cover life, his moral compass, his friendships. So doing a season where he interrogates his own belief system could be interesting. Scott Buck himself says,
Dexter is going to question exactly what the meaning of the code in his life is. Is it a substitute for any kind of spirituality?
But as we just saw in the first episode, the writers can't even be bothered to dress up their awkward exposition. So do you think they're gonna, A, have the patience to find clever, nuanced ways for Dexter to challenge his beliefs, or B, they're gonna half-ass it and rely entirely on the big bad to communicate their spiritual themes? Very good. The answer is D. The writers communicate zero intelligible themes, and instead just shove surface-level religious buzzwords into every moment for the illusion of cohesion.
We've wandered from God's path.
Sin of omission.
By the end of the season, there is zero conclusion or deeper insight as to whether Dexter's code has anything to do with spirituality. Also, Showtime behind-the-scenes editors, what the fuck is this angle? Let's take a closer look. In episode 1, Dexter has this conversation right before killing one-star quarterback Chad Thundercock.
What would Jesus have done?
How do you reconcile your belief in a higher power and a God with what you've done?
God forgives us.
Really, it's as simple as that? You kill someone, God forgives you for it?
Yes, if you let me go, God will give you life everlasting. You don't want to make God mad.
Please stop.
And I have been washed in the blood of the Lamb, and He will protect me.
Amusingly, this does prime you for what to expect this season. An uninspired first draft Dexter plot that's just adjacent to religion. What else does Dexter do in these first few episodes? He tries to get his son into a good preschool. But it's a religious school. What a coincidence.
What do you believe in, Mr. Morgan?
In case you missed it, this nun just tells you what the focus of the season is. To be clear, I don't think the show is trying to push Christianity on people. But even if it was, the religious ideas aren't substantive enough to even feel like propaganda. Oftentimes, it boils down to middle school tier philosophy that they spoon feed you with a rake.
Yeah, you put your faith in God, I put my faith in science.
I can't prove that God exists, but you can't prove He doesn't.
Wow. This is Brother Sam, by the way. Dexter investigates him as a potential murder target, only to befriend him after learning that he really has reformed. He's an ex-con turned born-again Christian. He's actually a pretty good character, but he's also aggressively Jesus-coded. This is him throughout the entire season.
And if you do happen to find God, you think you make the sun come up in the morning? You think you can make the tide come in? I baptized you, my brother in Christ. This ain't over. Well, until it is, I'm praying for you, son. Faith, brother. God is in control. I'm not afraid of you, son. And damn sure ain't afraid to die. I know what's waiting for me on the other side. Do you?
The 4400's Jordan Collier was a more nuanced Jesus figure, and his initials are literally JC. Watch the 4400, by the way. It's a great show. The Big Bad is a duo trying to bring about the biblical end of the world. Like I mentioned earlier, though, it's actually just one guy, Travis, who's hallucinating the other guy, James Geller. So there might be a world in which the villain plot says something about religious extremism, but it ultimately just says, damn, people with untreated psychosis do be hallucinating people. And they do, but they sacrifice narrative cohesion just to do the twist where Travis was hallucinating Geller all along. Great work, Scott. Get it? Like, Geller's God, and Travis thinks he's talking to God, but like, is God even real? Travis is, in general, one of the least consistent Dexter villains, both in his character motivations and in his acting. Do you remember how instantly frightening Trinity was in season 4 when he dropped a C-bomb? This is what we have now.
Hello, whore.
Also, according to this clip, basically no one but Geller's actor and some episode directors were told that Geller wasn't real. They wanted to tee up the episode 9 twist for everyone in the cast. I'm sure it was quite the revelation. Don't look me in the eyes. Travis believes that doomsday can be achieved by doing a series of murders and constructing macabre religious depictions. The show calls the person or people behind these tableaus the doomsday killers.
Let's find this doomsday killer.
Say that again?
Travis tries to use holy artifacts and iconography whenever possible, just to further imbue his kills with sectarian vibes.
This isn't just any Roman sword. According to medieval legend, this one belonged to John the Revelator, the guy who actually wrote Revelation.
Okay, I know that John the Revelator was a real guy, but this line is delivered with this weird gravitas that makes it feel like a joke. This isn't just any drive-thru. It's the one invented by Gordon Drive-R-Thru, moments after his car door got stuck. This season just shoves vague, non-denominational Christianity into any vacant nook and cranny. The new supporting character, the big bad, the dialogue between Dexter and his victims, throw spaghetti at the wall until it's in the shape of a cross. God forbid you have the slightest bit of subtlety. These aren't religious undertones, Scott. They're just tones. There is no other series that saturates itself with spiritual imagery and hopes that you invent a deeper meaning from it. Except Evangelion. And that's the most embarrassing part of the writing. There are no themes. It's not that we get ham-fisted one-dimensional spiritual themes from the writers. That would actually be a step up. It's that season 6 of Dexter awkwardly uses religion as an aesthetic and then delusionally claims that it's an exploration into Dexter's spirituality. In the same way that Travis hallucinates Geller as a religious icon, Scott imagines that his villains and side characters develop some grand, thoughtful theme. The season is actually better when you look at it through this meta lens, that the Dexter writers are intentionally being inconsistent and lazy so that we understand Travis's folly on a storytelling level. Viewed this way, the season is actually pretty clever. Good job, Scott.
Sometimes my genius it's almost frightening.
Now, as for why Travis's acting is so bad,
hello, whore.
I'll have to get back to you on that. The biggest problem with Travis isn't actually his acting, it's the complete lack of consistency in his own beliefs. The tableaus he creates are at times literal, like using actual horses for the 4 horsemen, and at other times symbolic, like using a poison gas jetpack for Wormwood. Victims are sometimes picked because they vaguely fit the theme, and other times are just picked because they're nearby and convenient. Bro, imagine getting killed by Travis because he couldn't be bothered to Google, what does the white horsey mean?
Why are you doing this to me?
Good question.
Sometimes God is working directly through him, and the end of the world is inevitable and preordained, and other times it'll only happen if he does everything perfectly.
How's the world going to end if the beast is still alive?
It won't.
But Adam, he has untreated schizophrenia. Of course there are huge holes in his belief system. First, people with mental illness can still have consistent beliefs built upon their delusions of grandeur. The main villain of Seven was also mentally ill and following some religious ethos, and yet his kills followed a sensible pattern, matching the Bible's 7 deadly... Oh, that's why it's called 7. Trinity 2 had horrific, inhuman compulsions, but they make sense in the context of his character, to the point where, when he killed Rita out of retribution for Dexter's actions, several characters all thought it was suspicious as fuck because Rita didn't fit the pattern.
Trinity killed her.
Yes.
Why? She didn't fit the pattern at all.
Amazing the kinds of conclusions you can make when your characters make basic sense. If Travis's actions and beliefs are only explainable by him acting in an unpredictable, irrational way, then there's no point in giving him an ethos and him thinking he's always in the right.
Travis represents a new bad guy. He believes that he's doing the right thing.
Am I a joke to you?
Why did the writers bother with a spiritually themed villain if they're just gonna give him a mental illness that can be used as an escape hatch for their shit writing? Fucking on time and under budget. Thanks, Scott. The show treats the supporting pieces of the villain plot as if it's seriously trying to enhance the theme. In the same way that those cults that predict doomsday always seem to have a few madly devout followers, Travis is able to team up with a husband and wife who've both drunk the Kool-Aid.
I'm inspired by your courage and faithfully follow you to the end.
Doomsday, Adam.
Disavow. They're willing to commit kidnapping and mass poisoning under Travis's promise that it'll give him a place in God's plan, which finally takes us to this scene.
Hello?
Hello, whore. Hello, whore.
In the final conversation between Dexter and Travis basically lampshades the complete inconsistency of Travis's character, but chalks it up to religious zealots are irrational, and not your character motivations needed a second draft.
Hello, Jesus.
Hello there.
What? I trust in God's plan. And it must be God's plan that you're on my table. They would never use their faith as a convenient excuse to kill 10 people. You. I am a father, a son, a serial killer.
Now, after everything I just said, you might be surprised to learn that there are parts of Season 6 I actually liked. Season 6 isn't all phoned-in garbage. There are some legitimately good moments. The mid-season episode, Nebraska, has most of them. Basically, Dexter has a crisis of faith after someone kills brother Sam. Dexter snaps and murders the killer in a fit of rage, and his psyche acts out by replacing Ghost Harry with his brother Brian, the ice truck killer.
Nobody can do anything.
There's no light in me.
We get a one-episode detour exploring what Dexter and Brian's life together might have been like if he didn't choose Deb.
The one that got away.
Dexter steals a gun, goes on a joyride, and murders a hostile motel worker on a whim. No vetting, no code, no nothing. In one episode, we learn more about Dexter's inner workings than we do the entire rest of the season combined.
Why do you wake up your victims when they're on the table? I want them to know what they've done.
Bullshit.
You like to watch the light go out of their eyes.
And it might be the only time Dexter's code being an allegory for religion is contemplated in a substantial, not ham-fisted way.
Does it make you feel better to kill bad people?
It's part of the ritual.
You don't need a justification to kill.
The code is more than that. It's given me a life.
A life that is a big fat lie.
Even the directing is inexplicably clever this episode. Take a look at this scene. We see Brian kill someone with a pitchfork, which we know is impossible. And the camera sweep shows us that Dexter's actually the one who did it. And I love the idea that Dexter's psyche outsources the act of impulsive murder to his brother.
Someone cooked here.
And you have this shot right after, which is a blink and you miss it American Gothic reference. Later, after Dexter lets go of Brian and drives home, you see his ghost dad on the side of the road, hitchhiking, patiently waiting for Dexter to return.
Welcome home, son.
There's something oddly comforting about that moment. His psyche returning to normal, following the code again, symbolized by his father expectantly waiting to be picked up. I still think about that moment sometimes. It's good writing. But aside from things like that...
Hello, whore.
Season 6 is an absolute mess. Okay, that's what Dexter was up to this season. The good news is, Deborah's plot isn't as bad. The bad news is, it's worse.
Now I hear what you're saying, Tim, and it sounds to me like this. Oh no, my mom left me.
I'm gonna warn you right now, this section might make some of you realize that you need a new therapist. In the first episode of Season 6, Deborah is at a restaurant when an active shooter storms in and begins killing people. She exchanges fire with him and manages to subdue him. Her heroic moment was recorded by patrons and it quickly went viral. Deborah's courageous act that the courts repeatedly ruled is not required for cops to do gets her promoted to lieutenant over Angel Batista, which she feels complicated about. In addition, she has to see a work-mandated therapist to make sure she's addressing any lingering trauma from the shooting. And I want to be clear, most people should probably do therapy. After Deborah's 8 traumatic experiences over the last 5 seasons, she should probably have 2 therapists verbally double-teaming her. I am not hating on therapists. I'm hating on this therapist. Her name is Michelle Ross, and in the same way that Michael Ross is pretending to be a lawyer, Michelle Ross is, I suspect, pretending to be a therapist. Michelle's just a way for the writers to tell not show Deborah's inner thoughts, a plot device in glasses that are never quite pushed up all the way. The Dexter Wiki describes her as an open-minded individual who knows how to ask the right questions in a supportive manner. That's pretty good. Can we see some of these questions?
I would sneak into his room and I'd curl up on the floor. Is that weird?
I don't know. Do you think it's weird?
That's insane.
Is it?
End of story.
You getting upset?
Wow. Now, I know what you're thinking, because YouTube's algorithm is getting better by the day. What do you know, Adam? You're just a guy with a microphone surrounded by $50 of plastic sheeting. As per the video essay rules, that only makes you authoritative about media, not psychology. Very true. I'm not a mental health professional. For all I know, she's doing some advanced psychological techniques that I'm just too smooth-brained to understand. How do I find out if my suspicions are correct? I was tempted to just parrot Deborah's dialogue word for word at my next session and see what my therapist says, but I don't know how to pronounce the word lieutenant. Wait, so I went with the next best thing. I showed the entirety of Deborah and Michelle's sessions to an actual real-life therapist and asked them for their analysis and feedback. If I say anything insightful in this section, it's thanks to her, and I'll put relevant quotes from our conversation on screen. I'm going to focus on what I think are the most egregious things Michelle says. Check Patreon if you need a more thorough takedown of each session. Let me start by showing you a snippet of an interview with Scott Buck about season 6. He says, "A lot of people wonder, what wrong person is Deborah gonna fall in love with next? And we're just not going in that direction at all this year." Just don't forget that. They're not going in that direction this year. They're not going in that direction. Sorry, where was I? Deborah's first few sessions are mostly just focused on her complaining about work and how distant Dexter's been lately. Michelle tells Deborah that that's just who Dexter is, which is a little dismissive.
Would you expect a chair to suddenly become a table? No, because a chair
is a chair.
Mm-hmm.
Dexter is who he is. You're good.
He's good at this.
Deborah gives Michelle a crash course on her two most dramatic relationships, the one with FBI agent Frank Lundy and the one with Ruby, the ice truck killer.
You can move forward, Deborah. But it's going to mean taking responsibility for your feelings and your choices.
What does that mean?
What that means.
What that means.
Please don't misunderstand me.
To quote the real therapist's reaction to that line, "That's a weird thing to say." Here's a pro tip. If you need to preface your sentences with, "Please don't misunderstand me," maybe don't go into the mental health field.
I am very sensitive to the trauma and the tragedy that you've experienced.
Okay, Michelle is about to give her thoughts on Deborah's relationship with Rudy. Let's recall the specifics of that, because it's going to be very important. El Hermano created a facade that fooled everyone in his life, including the many Miami Metro cops he interacted with.
I mean, you're not the only one who bought it.
He specifically targeted Deborah because of her connection to Dexter, and thoroughly manipulated her for his own ends every step of the way. He meticulously constructed himself to be someone she would find appealing, with the only red flag being how much he was vibing with Dexter.
My shift's almost done. You want to come over and talk?
I'm about to eat dinner with Dexter.
Then, moments after being engaged, he betrayed her, kidnapped her, and nearly murdered her. It's the largest, most terrifying betrayal of her life. From start to finish, it was a cold, calculated attack on her psyche that would have completely broken almost anyone. The fact that she's able to date, to trust anyone at all after that, is a fucking miracle. Okay, do you have all of that in your mind? Now listen to how the therapist, Michelle, explains it.
But as far as your failed relationships are concerned,
what?
We are responsible for the partners we choose.
Fucking excuse me, Michelle?
We are responsible for the partners we choose.
Bullshit.
In what world is Deborah responsible for any of what happened with Rudy? I'm so mad I'm using his actual fake name.
How the fuck was I supposed to know that Rudy was the ice truck killer? Are you saying that I chose to be with a serial killer on purpose?
I think you have a history of choosing inappropriate or unavailable men.
This level of victim blaming shouldn't even be possible. This is fucked coming from a stranger, let alone someone who's supposed to ask the right questions in a supportive manner. Even if, by some gargantuan leap of logic, Deborah is somewhat at fault, this is not how you broach the subject. You would systematically talk about each relationship Deborah's had, gather as much information as you can about each one, and try to identify any long-running behavioral patterns. And you would point them out in an actually sensitive way, not just by saying, "I'm incredibly sensitive to your trauma," as a free pass to say whatever you want, because that's fucking crazy!
I am very sensitive to the trauma and the tragedy that you've experienced.
I'm not in trouble at all.
And guess what? Deborah reacts badly to it.
That my life is a train wreck of a disaster? That my life is a shithole? Well, I already know this. This isn't news to me, okay? I know that I am broken.
So there's a way therapists challenge clients. It's called empathetic confrontation. Michelle does not do this. There is nothing supportive or empathetic about this. You have, in just a few sentences, reduced your client to tears as she admonishes herself as broken, all because she didn't have the clairvoyance to predict that the man she was dating was actually Dexter's secret serial-killing biological brother. Are you fucking kidding me? Should have paid for Hinge Premium. I think they have that filter. And what does Michelle say to Deb's emotional breakdown?
Do you know that you don't have to be?
How?
By making different choices.
Not, "No, you're not broken." Not a word of encouragement for overcoming her trauma. Just, "Did you know that you don't have to be?" As if Deb is being self-loathing and should stop pitying herself. Why is Deb so broken when she doesn't have to be? Is she stupid? You evoke this reaction out of her, Michelle. She's reframing targeted manipulation as a personal defect. Of course it's gonna make Deborah feel ashamed. I'm gonna quote the real therapist on this, verbatim. "That was really bad. That was horrible. She then suggested that, at the very most, if Deb was starting to get into a new relationship, she might ask, does this feel similar to previous relationships? And use that as a jumping off point to identify familiar red flags from her time with Brian or Lundy. After listening to Michelle's bullshit, this is such a reasonable line of thinking. A lot of therapy is just asking the right questions to guide your client towards a conclusion or insight. Or, I guess, you could just preempt your own conclusions with, please don't misunderstand me. And then you could say whatever you want. So ask yourself, why is this the conclusion that Michelle is pushing? The real therapist agrees that, aside from Michelle's completely heartless approach, the conclusion itself of Deb needing to make different choices is absolute nonsense. Why would Scott have this here? It can't just be misguided character development. How does that make us on time and under budget? This should tell you that the idea of Deb is responsible for the partners she chooses serves a writing function for a later episode. Let's move on to the last formal session between them. Here, Deborah talks about how important Dexter is to her. You know, her only living family.
You think I'm crazy now? Oh, I can't even imagine what a fucking mess my life would be without him.
I don't think you're crazy.
Side note, the real therapist said she'd like that Michelle affirmed that Deborah isn't crazy here.
Is it possible that your feelings for Dexter are the reason that you have chosen men in the past who have been either inappropriate or unavailable?
It's happening.
He's my brother.
Yet you're not biologically related.
Michelle, please don't do it. Michelle, no.
He comes up in these sessions a lot. Aren't you curious as to why that is?
Let's see. They're brother and sister. The rest of their family is dead. They support one another. They work together. He saved her from a poison gas attack 20 minutes ago. Pick your favorite.
He's a huge part of my life. That's it. End of story.
You getting upset?
Are the supportive questions in the room with us right now? These vaguely antagonistic questions that are peppered throughout their sessions are damaging when you look at them holistically. Deborah's clearly upset about Michelle's accusation that she supposedly has feelings that make her lifelong bond with her only living family inappropriate. It's a fucked up thing to say to someone, but the way Michelle delivers her, you getting upset? Makes it feel like a gotcha. Deborah's doing counseling and Michelle is doing Perry Mason.
I am not crazy.
To quote the real therapist, if I was her client, I would feel like this isn't a safe space. I'd feel like she was trying to push her narrative on me, trying to get me or trick me. And if I disagree with her, my anger is somehow proof that she's right. We've all been in situations like this, where your anger or denial is misinterpreted as you being defensive about something you don't want to admit, when in reality the other person just said something offensive or baseless. You have every right to be upset. It does not validate their stupid thing. Deborah just told Michelle that her bond with Dexter is the one consistently positive thing about her life. And within 3 sentences, Michelle is ready to ruin it. You want to fuck your brother? That'll be $300. For those who are aromantic, you can imagine the exact same situation because this is an insane thing for Michelle to say. And here's what's fucked up. Deborah believes her.
I love my brother, but I am sure as shit not in love with my brother, if that's what you're getting at. We're done here. You were right.
This shows just how vulnerable and suggestible people are during therapy. Your clients have so much trust in you. You're the expert. A therapist has a duty to be responsible with their words because they can easily cause real harm. But here comes Michelle, molding Deborah's brain into an aura emo shape. And then when Deborah's like, you're right, I need to tell him, Michelle once again ignores the responsible approach of asking, are you sure? What does that future look like? Let's try to understand the ramifications. Instead, she's like, damn, that's crazy. Good luck. Maybe he hates you.
This is how it feels to be in control of your emotions.
But you can't control his.
Oh, and listen to what Deb says here.
My whole life, every man I've ever loved makes sense. It's like I've always been looking for someone like Dexter.
Okay, so that's why Scott had to victim blame Deborah. If the failed relationships are her fault, then it strengthens the idea that she's doing this because of her latent feelings towards Dexter. It's economical storytelling, but in the same way that outsourcing to China is economical. My favorite part is in the behind the scenes. Scott talks about the erotic dream Deborah has about Dexter afterwards, as if it's proof that Michelle is right.
When the therapist first brings it up, she thinks that's ridiculous, but yet then in her dreams, it manifests itself and she could just no longer deny it.
You manifested it, Scott. You gave her that dream.
Think of all your dreams that could come true. Even the wet ones. Yeah, those two.
Hey, Scott, do you remember that interview you did? The one where you said you're not going in the direction of Deborah falling in love with some wrong person? What the fuck do you call this faux incest revelation? This is barely better than Deborah getting stuck in a washing machine. I don't think you should be bragging that no one else was able to guess Deborah's plot. In fairness to Scott, it's difficult to write with one hand busy. So Deborah takes Michelle's advice and goes to Dexter to tell him. And it's then that she catches Dexter mid-kill. And that's how the season ends. It may have been a pathetic, cobbled-together clusterfuck of Walmart brand Dexter plots, but this cliffhanger is legit. It's a knowledge bomb 6 years in the making that Season 7 will finally pay off. People often say that Season 7 is the last good season. But here's the thing.
Did you kill all these people?
I did.
A lot of good stories or plot hooks have a secret built into them. Walt cooking meth, Mike not being a real lawyer, Eleanor not belonging in the good place, Ladybug and Cat Noir's real identities, and Dexter secretly being a serial killer. Even this channel has me not actually knowing English, which I'm gonna pay off in about 15 videos. And there's an easy reason why stories do this. It's an incredibly efficient way of creating meaningful stakes. Regular episodes can be spiced up by making your main character at risk of being found out. People investigating mysteries adjacent to the big secret can be a slow burn plot for entire seasons. When it's done right, even the most mundane scene from Breaking Bad can be high stakes, like Walt getting wine drunk at dinner and then nearly recapping seasons 1 through 3 to Hank verbatim.
This guy, Gail Bedecker, he was a genius.
Oh, he doesn't even have my eyes. Alternatively, if you're rushing to finish your season arc on the bus on the way to school, you can have every season finale be about another person discovering that Mike isn't really a lawyer.
Miss Pearson, I'm a friend of Mike Ross. I wish I didn't have to do this.
I never went to Harvard.
Mike Ross. He's not here.
Mike Ross never went to law school. I knew it and I hired him anyway.
You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud.
You've been lying to me since the day Mike Ross arrived.
I'm a fraud.
Some of those were mid-season finales, others were just mid-season finales. This is a big, potent form of what's often called dramatic irony, when the audience knows something that the other characters don't. Oftentimes, the status quo of your show relies on others not finding out. Dexter, obviously, has an incredibly important piece of dramatic irony that gets revealed this season. Dexter loving Deborah back. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. It's Dexter being a murderer. Deborah being a witness to Dexter's kill is the most potent hook the show has had, maybe ever. We're going to see the payoff of 6 years of build-up. Does Season 7 of Dexter use this to elevate the show to new heights? Or does it fizzle? Episode 1 immediately opens with a flash forward of Dexter seemingly being on the run. He's speeding through traffic, none of his cards work, and he's paying for airplane tickets with cash and a fake passport.
It's simple human nature to keep little secrets. I dye my hair. I watch internet pornography.
It's 2012, Scott. You can just say porn.
It's called hentai, and it's art.
Then we jump back to the cliffhanger Season 6 left us on. Dexter tries to convince Deborah that it was a spur-of-the-moment, one-time thing.
Snapped.
Deborah believes this, at least in the moment. However, she demands that they don't move the body.
We're not moving the fucking body anywhere.
So they stage Travis like a suicide and set the church on fire, the Deer Hunter Act 5 style. In Dexter's rush, however, he drops a bloodslide he took from Travis. Later, LaGuardia finds it and does her best police work to date.
Only one person who ever worked at Miami Metro ever took blood slides.
And that was?
Sergeant Dokes.
Oh shit! Dokes is alive!
What if the Bay Harbor Butcher is still alive and at work?
No, that makes more sense. And to the writer's credit, Deborah does find out the truth by the end of the first episode.
Are you his serial killer?
The rest of the episode is mostly just a build-up to this scene. Also, we find out that the flash forward was a misdirect. Dexter's credit cards were broken because future Grok companion user Lewis canceled them, and Dexter is buying a plane ticket just to catch his kill of the week, a mafioso who killed the placeholder text of a detective that was introduced last season. Dexter apprehends him in the airport and murders him in a vacant luggage room without any of his usual kill tools. It's a useless, flashy kill that's completely out of touch with the oppressive security protocols in international airports post 9/11. There's literally a camera right there, but Dexter just gets away with it.
Fine! He really whacked him.
It's the opening scene of episode 2 that really gives the audience what we've been waiting for. It's one of the best scenes in the season.
You fucking touch me! I am never gonna fucking be okay. How long have you been fucking doing this?
Since I was 20.
Are you the Bay Harbor Butcher?
This is a place to talk about this. Dad taught me.
Dad knew.
He thought up the code. He said if I had to kill, I might as well kill people who deserved it.
I am the worst fucking detective in the world.
Yeah, I don't know how it took Deborah 7 seasons to find out that Dexter was a serial killer. I figured it out by season 3. So where should things go from here? There's a lot of reasonable options. Deb having an existential crisis and spiraling out, arresting Dexter, or calling up her therapist and demanding a refund.
It would be understandable for you to develop complex feelings for him.
Unfortunately, what she does do is kind of underwhelming. Deborah, reading an article from her dead father figure / boyfriend, concludes that what Dexter has is a simple addiction, and the solution is to put him in a personal rehab.
Say I really feel like wrapping someone up in plastic and stabbing them, and I can say, no, Dexter, don't.
Deborah basically spends the next episode and a half keeping an eye on him and doing the lieutenant version of Swiper, no swiping! Dexter, no stabbing! Dexter, no stabbing! Dexter, no stabbing! Oh, man! Oh, and the plot about Deborah being in love with Dexter is dropped almost entirely. It comes up in 2 scenes later in the season and then it's never mentioned again. Not surprising considering that even the show's original showrunner, Clyde Phillips, said in an AMA that he thought the plot development was creepy. This is such a sad AMA, by the way. It's right before the season 8 finale, and all the questions are just fans complaining about the show's writing, and Clyde is just like, yeah. Like, you're supposed to be gracious to the new showrunner, but he's had enough. Anyway, after Deborah realizes that some people fall through the cracks and what Dexter does is a net positive on the world, she's basically done trying to change Dexter, and we once again reach a status quo. It takes maybe 4 episodes for Deborah to get over it, which sucks, because Deborah's problem with Dexter isn't the moral utilitarianism of it. You, Deborah, have just found out that your brother is driven by a fundamentally different set of urges than what you knew, has been evading law enforcement, framed dokes, and killed countless people. This is beyond Ice Truck Killer levels of deception. Hell, the dad you admired so much was a critical part of it. Meanwhile, you're one of the most hot-headed, morally driven people in the series. I don't think there should be a status quo anymore. The only truly fitting part of Deborah's entire reaction is that first scene where she throws up and punches him. There are some other good scenes, her asking about Rita and Trinity, for example, but the majority is like that video edit where the truck keeps approaching a safety bollard without ever actually hitting it. Just constant anticipation with no payoff, to the point where it feels like you're being mocked. By the way, the full version with the collision does exist. It's from a TV show. Let me show you.
Its makers claim it's tough enough to stop one of those.
Actually, never mind, this video is getting long. From Deborah's perspective, previously crucial, unresolved mysteries have a new, often disturbing light, but these mostly went unexplored or just glossed over. Look at the events of Season 5, for example. Deborah felt immense sympathy for the vigilantes that were going after the Barrel Girls killers.
It's a miracle he survived.
She knew that one of them was a victim who escaped, and that they're, in a sense, morally justified. In fact, when Deborah catches Lumen and Dexter after killing Jordan Chaserson, she lets the killers get away.
In an hour, this place will be swarming with police. If I were you, I'd be gone by then.
It's a scene that tells us where her morality lies. Letting these vigilantes be arrested would fail the vibe check? Since the writers wanted Deborah to go in the accepting Dexter direction, this was a clear way forward, revealing to her that he was the guy helping the escaped Barrel Girls victim. In a sense, she already confronted him and let him get away. It would pour 40, maybe 50 shades of gray into the black and white perspective of Dexter being a serial killer. Season 7 does have a scene where they talk about this, but not at all in a satisfying way. The focus quickly becomes, you slept with Lumen so soon after Rita died? The scandal, the drama!
You moved your girlfriend into the house where Trinity murdered your wife?
All of Deb's reactions, aside from the very first one, are weak. Her most intense emotional reaction is actually when she finds out that Dexter and Hannah are boning.
You picked the one way that you could hurt me worse than you could ever fucking understand.
Oh, speaking of which, let's talk about the blob of empty writing cliches in the shape of a woman called Hannah McKay. Just as Rita represented a sometimes unrealistic ideal of the normal life Dexter could have, and Lumen represented the moral duality of Dexter's urges, Hannah represents the writers rushing to finish the script for Season 7, Episode 3. Fun fact, I watched 3 episodes of Chuck, another show that Hannah's actress was in, before I realized that's who she was. Because in Chuck, she's an actual character and not some hodgepodge of Dexter's ideal GF that the writers threw together after a wet dream Scott had.
Think of all your dreams that could come true. Even the wet one.
Okay, quick Hannah background. As a teenager, she was kidnapped by a serial killer named Wayne Randall. Many years later, he's given law enforcement information about where bodies are buried. After the bodies are found and Wayne isekais himself, Hannah McKay is called in to give more details. There, Dexter discovers that he has a thing for blondes with shoulder-length hair, and that Hannah actually killed some of the people who Wayne took the blame for.
If Wayne didn't kill this person,
everything you've said is a lie.
The chemistry between them is incredible, and by that I mean the show pretends that it's really good.
So I just want you to know that if last night was a one-night thing for you, then I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Sal Price, a novelist with a pen-chewing habit, discovered that Hannah has been a killer all her life too. He was gonna write a book about it, so Hannah pretends to give him an interview while poisoning his pen. All of you pen chewers out there, just know that you are not valid and that Hannah McKay is coming for you! I know it's poison, you're feeding me poison. Deborah was dating Sal, and she knows that Hannah killed him, which is why she hates Hannah personally so much. Dexter almost kills Hannah because she does fit the code, but he ends up dating her and opening up about his murders.
I've never been able to talk to anyone about my kills before. Am I a joke to you?
As funny as it is to see Dexter's occasional regression to awkward, horny teenager when he interacts with her, there's no chemistry reason for it that the dialogue or actors manifest. The impression most viewers will get is that Dexter just happens to find her really hot, which isn't enough when the story is trying to tell us that she's the perfect partner for Dexter.
She isn't drawn to my darkness like Lila, or blind to it like Rita, and she doesn't need it like Lumen. So why am I walking away from this?
This is a big problem I have with Hannah. It's the story's bizarre insistence that she's the one. To quote my 6th grade math teacher, show your work. Season 7 keeps doing this thing where it shows us the result and implications of the crazy connection that Dexter and Hannah have, while making Hannah's actress do her best impression of a stone column wearing gardening gloves.
You have a little dirt.
Occupational hazard. I can get pretty dirty.
Over and over we're told, look at how they're beyond all reason drawn to one another, to the point where Dexter hard pivots from stabbing her on his kill table to stabbing her on his kill table. The second half of that is written in italics. They bone. But aside from her being aloof, which is writer's shorthand for personality TBD, I can't with any confidence tell you any noteworthy traits she has. The only time they really let her act is in an argument in episode 11. Oh, and believe me, we'll get to that! Rita is a fragile optimist. Lumen is anxious but determined. Both are driven by a past trauma. It took me 10 seconds to write that. Hannah's got nothing going on with her. How can you hope for two characters to have chemistry when one of them doesn't even have a personality? And the show just insists by calling episode 7 chemistry, once again delusionally pretending that we're watching a better show.
Chemistry. I've heard some people have it.
This is chemistry. You feel it too.
Okay, maybe Hannah and Dexter get along on a moral level? Even if we discount the frenzied stabbing of an innocent woman Hannah did as a teenager, most of Hannah's kills are based on pragmatism, not morality. Her targets are involved with her personally or pose a risk to her. She even killed her husband because he wanted her to get an abortion or else he'd leave her. Just 1 season ago, Dexter admonished Mr. Thundercock for killing his spouse instead of getting a divorce.
Do you know how expensive a divorce is?
If only he had shoulder-length hair and a starring role in Chuck. Now, let's talk about the big bad for a bit, because the main villain is easily the best post-season 4 villain. The guy Dexter killed in the airport is a mafia boss named Victor. This causes our antagonist, a high-ranking official in the mafia named Isaac Serco, to pursue Dexter as a form of revenge for killing his very good platonic friend. They were such friendly friends. Gal pals. The name of this organization is the Koshka Brotherhood. Now, I'm not going to bother getting into most of the Mafia's plot because it's unremarkable and inconsequential. Quinn falls in love with one of the strippers and they use her as leverage to make him do illegal things. Someone should have bonked him. Sucks to suck.
I did what you wanted. The evidence against Serco's gone. I want Nadia's passport.
But Isaac is both well-written and interesting. We see him lying and playing mind games to trick information out of people when looking into Victor's death.
I lied. I didn't have you followed.
We get a pretty unique villain kill when he forces one of his own men to claim responsibility for a crime and then take their own life. And they're able to drop early hints about how ruthless he can be.
You're in luck. Why? I believe you.
It's like they plucked a villain out of Peaky Blinders and put it in the show. Even though Isaac and Dexter want each other dead, the show finds some pockets in a few episodes where they can talk to one another. The most noteworthy one is in this bar where male best friends hang out. Okay, I'm gonna stop being purposefully obtuse. I just find it so funny how many Dexter fans watched season 7 and weren't sure whether Isaac is attracted to men. Even 14 years later, one of the top results when searching his character name is Isaac Serco gay? It isn't even subtle like with Gus in Breaking Bad. Isaac basically says it in episode 8.
You thought your enemies wouldn't follow you into a gay bar? I thought I'd feel comfortable in a gay bar.
And then, in case you were looking at your phone, Isaac explicitly says it 2 minutes later.
You and Victor were lovers. More than that.
Lovers of what? The show gradually hints at the depth of Isaac and Victor's relationship over the first few episodes, and it works. You would first think that Isaac is seeking vengeance for the Brotherhood in general, but he continues to double down, sometimes against his own interests, until you realize that he's motivated by grief fueled by love. It's a twist. It's a lot less bombastic than Geller not being real, but way more substantial and character-driven. And harder to predict, apparently. He tells us that the Brotherhood is homophobic, and so he's been hiding this information from them. The season is an unfortunate mix of legitimately good moments, like Dexter and Isaac's prison conversation, and plots that make you feel like you're driving over an unpaved road using your face. And the next episode's big Hannah McKay conflict is a perfect example of the latter. In the episodes leading up to it, we see Deborah becoming increasingly reliant on medications like Xanax to get herself through the day.
Fucking Xanax to get me to tomorrow morning so I can have that half-second peace.
Then, in episode 11, she gets into a car accident and wakes up in the hospital. The doctors find huge levels of drugs in her system, and the initial conclusion is that she mixed up or took too much of her various medications, causing her to fall asleep at the wheel. When Deborah tells this to Dexter, she mentions that this happened right after Hannah showed up at her house, and Deb told her, "I'm never gonna stop pursuing you." This information gives Dexter a brain blast.
Hannah knew?
She was at my house yesterday, and now I'm here.
Figured it would kick in while Price was on the road. Convenient auto accident.
Okay, so that's it, right? It's pretty clear that Hannah did it. It's an obvious variation of what her plan was with Sal Price. Give Deborah drugs that make her pass out behind the wheel, causing a fatal car accident.
Whoa, dude.
Oh my god.
I just blacked out for a spell.
You fainted.
But when Dexter confronts her, the argument they have is interesting, legitimately. Hannah, for the first time all season, actually seems genuinely emotional and hurt. There's a clear difference between her behavior here versus the crocodile tears when she was confessing to Sal Price to lower his guard. Plus, she gives good reasons why this would be a stupid thing for her to do.
She's a mess that any second-year law student could discredit. She's not a threat to me. Do you really think that I would be that stupid to try and poison the lieutenant of homicide? And to think that you wouldn't figure it out?
And Dexter doesn't know what to believe. Now, you're a viewer with media literacy. You know about the importance of conflicts being character-driven rather than just checking off plot points. So after watching that scene, the intended takeaway has changed, right? The focus is no longer, did Hannah do it? It's, can Dexter ever fully trust Hannah?
Well, that's your problem, your lack of trust. Your inability to trust.
Don't turn this back on me.
You're the one accusing me.
I know what you're capable of.
Up until now, Dexter saw her as an ideal serial killer boyfriend-free girl. But that comes with baggage. Someone who's that comfortable with death as a pragmatic solution is dangerous to have conflicts with. Even if Hannah didn't actually poison Deborah, how could he know for sure? If something bad ever happens to Deb, would he ever be certain that his supposed soulmate didn't play a role in it?
If anything ever happens to Deb, I'm gonna wonder if you had something to do with it.
That is the clear takeaway from the scene and the overall conflict. The reality of who Hannah is, her own murderous survival instinct, is now at odds with Dexter and what he cares about. We're left asking ourselves, how could Dexter ever fully trust Hannah? Is their relationship, as perfect as it seemed to them, actually doomed? And the answer is, D, she did it. She poisoned Deborah. She was just lying to him. The whole trust question is completely moot. Dexter finds a water bottle in Deborah's totaled car, tests it, and finds that it's been spiked. He gives Deborah the evidence she needs to arrest Hannah, and he confronts her in jail the next episode. And what does Hannah say?
You were supposed to choose me.
Okay, so it was exactly what we thought when we heard that Deborah was in a car accident. Their entire argument and trust detour was an episode-long waste of time. Why the fuck are we doing any of this? I saw Season 7 apologists describe this as subversive, and no, it's not.
Not really.
Subversive is when the answer is something we don't expect. It's if, for example, Deborah had actually poisoned herself in order to fabricate the emotional conflict between Dexter and Hannah. Which, by the way, many people guessed between episodes 11 and 12, out of a mix of critical thinking and pure cope. What we have here is the writers incompetently using the language of storytelling to shift your focus from, did she do it, to, is their season-long relationship actually ill-fated, and then makes fun of you for asking the deeper question. It's bad writing.
Please stop.
Hi, Future Adam here. I just wanted to note that if Dexter turned Hannah in before he knew for sure that she poisoned Deb, then we'd be fine. The problem is that he was given the answer, so he never has to make a decision based on whether or not he can trust her. Okay, silver lining. At the very, very least, we now have confirmation that Hannah is a bad partner and Dexter should never be with her, right? She had no problem trying to kill Deborah and lying perfectly to his face, despite ostensibly loving him and valuing their relationship more than anything. He should stay away from her before Harrison gets ice cream on her dress and she puts cyanide in his juice box. Except... bonk! From lying to his face to lying on his face. There's one last thing to talk about in this season, the finale. LaGuerta spends the entire season figuring out who the Bay Harbor Butcher could be. After realizing that it's probably definitely Dexter, she uses her political influence to free one of the cartel people who killed Dexter's mom, Hector Estrada. The intent is to use him to bait Dexter into another kill, which she's almost successful at.
They said that there was a big push for my release. You're not the one who was set up.
This is a smart play and not a move most people saw coming. Oh, the name of the finale is Surprise Motherfucker. Can you guess why?
James always knew there was something wrong with you.
Surprise, motherfucker.
He is alive! I told you so! Siri, text LaGuerta. Number not in service. Okay, he's not really alive. We're shown flashbacks of Dokes and Dexter's first interactions. It has some of the best dialogue in the entire season.
You don't even walk like a normal person. You glide like a fucking lizard on ice.
LaGuerta finds evidence that will implicate Dexter and Deborah in Travis's death, so Dexter has decided that it's time for her to go. With that, Dexter kills Hector and apprehends LaGuerta, with the plan being to shoot her with Hector's gun and shoot Hector with LaGuerta's gun. But Deborah catches him in the act and begs him to stop. There is no moral rationale for taking out LaGuerta.
It's the only solution, the only way to end this.
No, I can't let you go through with this.
LaGuerta wakes up, only half lucid because of the tranquilizer, and urges Deborah to shoot Dexter.
Do it! Shoot him!
But she takes out LaGuerta instead. You know what's weird? Deborah didn't have to shoot LaGuerta. Like, yeah, she's implicated in her death either way, but there's no reason to pull the trigger herself. Maybe an acorn fell nearby? The writers don't just want Deborah walking away and being implicated. I get that. That's been happening all season. Instead, they want her to become a murderer for her brother, and for her to live with the consequences. In theory, that's a strong character choice. Show us where her feelings lie, and how she's willing to sacrifice who she is for Dexter. But there's no reason for Deborah to do it. The best reason I can think of is she already had her gun out and it would be rude not to use it. I checked the frames, there's no acorn. I don't want a backseat right, but there's a pretty simple fix. Have LaGuerta, realizing that Deb doesn't have the strength to kill Dexter, grab the gun on Hector Estrada's body. LaGuerta tries to kill Dexter in self-defense, so Deborah shoots LaGuerta first, protecting him. Why didn't they do something like this? Maybe they thought no one would notice. Maybe they were already over budget and off time. Maybe they couldn't find Hector's prop gun. I guess we'll never know. Our final scene is Dexter leading a newly traumatized Deborah through a New Year's party. Then the camera pans to fireworks, which I think is sending the wrong message. In that season 7, realistically, it's not that far above season 6. It just feels better because there's so much latent potential in Deborah finding out the truth about Dexter. Anything that isn't an outright betrayal of her character or complete avoidance of the situation will have a level of satisfaction to it, resolving 6 years of audience anticipation. And even then, they could have done so much more with Deborah finding out. The fact that the status quo was returned to at all means that they just wanted to punch up a few episodes and lightly explore some new dynamics without having to fully commit to actually changing the story. It's a spineless way of writing. And when you look at most of the other plots, the relationship with Hannah, the Quinn stripper romance, the post-Isaac kills of the week, you realize how heavily the season leaned on cashing in that dramatic irony. Season 7 wasn't a good season. It just had good moments. However, all of that is nothing compared to what comes next. Season 8. I took down the plastic wrap for this section. Season 8 does not deserve it. Season 8 is the one that everyone hates. It's where the writing and plot go to shit. It's Scott Buck butt-fucking us for bucks before he runs off, scot-free but not scot-free. It manages to upset even the most ardent Dexter fans. At some point, the Dexter subreddit revolts and starts doing episode discussions for Breaking Bad instead. Look, an opportunistic confection, but on the internet. If I had to quantify the difference between 6 and 8, it's that Season 6 is incompetent while Season 8 is lazy. In fact, nearly every part of Season 8 is bad in a uniquely lazy way. I've never seen writers work so hard to not write something. To understand what's going on here, we need to talk about a special type of plot. There are certain plots that target a foundational or core aspect of a story, rather than a small piece of it. Anything whose outcome could change the nature of the show itself. A main character graduating on Community, or a villain that can prevent all future Slayers in Buffy. When done well, these plots are usually your best episodes or arcs, since they'll give payoff to your biggest story pieces. But since they'll, almost by definition, fundamentally change your show, writers use them sparingly, like during season finales. Unless you're The Good Place Season 2, in which case you burn through like 8 of them in one episode for the sake of the bit.
Jason figured it out?
I'm going to call these types of plots existential plots. They're plots that contend with the fabric of your show. Yes, I'm coining a term 2 hours in. H. Bomber Guy has shifted the Overton window for how long a video essay can be. Interestingly, Dexter's Bay Harbor Butcher plot fits this definition of an existential plot, which is one of the reasons why Season 2 is so good. Season 8 has exactly one thing I'd call an existential plot, and it veers off a bridge 4 episodes in. Nothing else that happens is even close to dramatic, high stakes, or central to the show's identity. What about the side plots? Quinn wants to become a sergeant, but Batista chooses someone else. Batista's sister, Jamie, is dating Quinn. Masuka finds out he has a daughter and is afraid she's a gold digger. Deborah's boss has a crush on her. In other words, filler, 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 and filler. These all go nowhere and tie into nothing. There are 4 aspects of this season that could provide us with an existential plot. Let's start with the one thing that had potential. Right from episode 1, we see that Deborah is in a self-destructive spiral. Deborah has quit the force and is working for a private investigation firm, and she is not doing well. When we see her, she's drinking and hooking up with a drug dealer she's supposed to be investigating. All of this stems from the guilt of killing LaGuerta, which, by the way, she still didn't have to do. She's avoiding Dexter outright, saying she hates him. And this makes Dexter suffer. He's growing emotionally unstable from not having Deborah in his life. You see him being more impulsive, angry, and less in control of his emotions.
Hey, what's going on?
Jesus, Harrison! Look at what you did!
It's a really great thing they show you until Ghost Harry just tells you.
You lost control out there, Dexter.
Dexter stabs and murders the dealer that Deborah was with on a whim during a confrontation. It's an impulsiveness we've almost never seen in the past, and it fucks up Deborah even further.
I felt okay around him. Fuck.
Deb.
Fuck. Fuck.
I care about Dexter and Deborah as characters, so it obviously hurts to see their relationship so strained, but it's absolutely the right choice. Is Dexter gonna slip up? Is Deborah gonna snap? It feels new and scary, like we're on a hair trigger before a dramatic conclusion slaps us in the face. This is what Season 7 should have felt like 5 episodes in. They were cooking. Briefly, they were cooking. In episode 2, Deborah kills a hostile hitman in a haze, and Dexter has to hide the evidence. And every attempt Dexter makes to reach out to Deborah only makes her suffer more. To quell her self-loathing, he tries to remind her of her bravery by playing a suspiciously edited Season 6 clip of her saving that restaurant.
How did they get a close-up?
But it only makes Deborah feel worse. So she gets plastered and tries to confess to her crime of killing LaGuerta. Thankfully, Joey Quinn, a man who's chased by competence but is always able to outrun it.
Deb, what are you talking about?
I told you I killed LaGuerta.
That doesn't make any...
Doesn't take Deb seriously and instead calls Dexter.
I'm confessing everything. I'm telling the whole fucking truth. And let me out!
She passed out.
Well, we must take her home to rest.
Let's get her out of here.
Worst cop ever. He's like, I instantly believe you.
She later apologizes to Joey and goes on a car ride with Dexter. He tries to have a heart-to-heart with her, but she responds by trying to kill them both by grabbing the wheel and driving the car off a bridge. You didn't really think I'd deprive you of that collision, did you? Someone saves Deborah and she sees that Dexter's still there, drowning. His imminent peril finally gives her clarity about her feelings towards him. With that, she goes to save him.
Hello?
Wow, that was pretty dramatic. It was also 4 episodes. After half an episode of Dexter being mad at Deb for trying to murder him,
To hell with both of you.
the two of them are now back to normal. We return to status quo. With 8 episodes to go, we're back to mid-season 7's I'm kind of annoyed that you kill people attitude.
What was Zach doing with you and Hannah and the Keys? Serial killers convention?
This is the first of many times where characters will just stop making sense because the plot wants to move. Okay, so that's out. What about the new main character, Evelyn Vogel? She's a neuropsychiatrist who worked at Miami Metro back when Dexter's dad was around.
This, Evelyn Vogel.
Way to look her, that one.
You know her?
Yeah.
Bonk.
Well, the episode 1 cliffhanger is actually pretty great. It's her revealing that she knows that Dexter is a serial killer and about his dad's teachings.
You can't kill me.
Why?
Because I don't fit Harry's code.
It drives me crazy how much potential this first episode had. But then we learn why she knows this. Turns out Evelyn is actually Dexter's secret mom, in a sense. Harry consulted with her about Dexter and she helped him create the code. I already talked about why this makes me mad. It undermines the core premise of Dexter. It fundamentally changes the circumstances surrounding Harry's decisions for raising him. But then I started to really think about why they did this dumb writing shortcut, and I finally understood. how lazy this writing is. So they wanted to give Dexter a new parental figure, someone who's chill about his hidden homicidal hobby and can help him heal the hurt he's hoisted on his sister. Scott's solution was to have Evelyn and Harry collaborate on the code from the get-go. Harry meets with Evelyn about Dexter and she gives him a few spools of saran wrap on the way out. Is there a way we can establish this immediate rapport without immolating 7 seasons of canon? And the answer is yes. Pretty easily. Okay, so we know that at 20, Dexter does his first kill, and his dad is alive for about a year afterwards. Then he walks in on Dexter mid-kill and does the biggest rage quit in Dexter history.
I finally got him for you.
Here's the idea. Harry teaches Dexter the code without Vogel, like before. But after that first kill, Harry is riddled with guilt over the reality of what he created. It's the first time his teachings have stopped being theoretical, where he sanctioned the death of someone.
Stop.
In his desperation to stop Dexter from doing it again, he reaches out to a psychiatry expert who consulted for the department in the past, Dr. Evelyn Vogel. He tells her about Dexter under the forlorn desire to see if there's any other way to help him, to treat his urges rather than channel them. Evelyn can now learn everything she needs to know about the code and Dexter's upbringing. Evelyn can assure Harry that he's made the best of an impossible situation. She can assuage his guilt just long enough to keep him going, until he sees Dexter's handiwork in person a year later and it becomes too much for him to bear. Until then, Harry consults with her. Think about this alternative. It would inform on Harry's character, it would elaborate on his eventual decision to kill himself, and it would give Evelyn all of the information she needs about Dexter without her crafting Harry's code parentheses Evelyn's version. It would make Vogel more sympathetic too because she isn't experimenting on children. What a low bar. Do you know how long it took me to come up with this? 0 minutes. It occurred to me mid-rant to a friend about this section of the script. If I, someone who's never written anything and doesn't even know English, could figure that out mid-sentence, what could a competent writer's room have come up with in a few weeks? Do you know how insane it is when your off-the-cuff fanfiction is substantially more cohesive than the actual show? Truly, 0 fucks given by everyone involved. Until Deb tries to drive off the bridge, Vogel does serve a purpose in the season by trying to mend her and Dexter's relationship, even if her counseling yields mixed results.
I'm not like him. I'm not like you. Dexter is fucking Dexter.
After Deb's literal crash out, Vogel briefly acts as a sort of marriage counselor for Dexter and Deborah, saying that Deborah trying to kill Dexter was a good thing actually.
And that was Deborah's first step toward recovery.
But Dexter's so angry he turns into an owl.
Who's gonna take care of him? Who?
After that, Vogel just sort of hangs out until Dexter discovers that that season's serial killer is related to her, and she's like, what? No. I mean, I had a homicidal son who killed my other son, but he died, probably. And that's it until she dies, so no luck there. Let's try Hannah, a character who never seems to go away. She's like herpes in that regard. She's reintroduced at the end of episode 6 by surprise drugging Dexter and Deborah, just for shits and giggles, I guess. When Dexter finds her next episode, she tells him she's married under a new identity to a rich, powerful guy who's also kind of abusive. Dexter helps her kill him, gets her a passport, and tries to get her to leave, but the script says that they're supposed to bone, so...
Don't go.
I guess Dexter forgives her for the whole poisoning Deb thing. Since Hannah's a wanted fugitive and Deborah weirdly doesn't want Dexter with someone who tried to kill her, Deborah gives information to her PI boss, Elway, who pulls in a US Marshal and begins a manhunt for her. And throughout this, Dexter and Hannah continue their two characters try to have chemistry challenge parentheses impossible.
No, really, when you're lying in bed at night and I happen to cross your mind, what do you call me?
Hannah? I was gonna say Hannah.
Hannah. You're just Hannah.
She comes right then and there. She seems so disappointed.
The whole thing feels like they took the leftovers of the season 7 Hannah plot and just microwaved it. Once again, since none of the characters need to make sense, Deborah agrees to letting Hannah stay at her place to hide from the federal marshals that Deborah herself invoked, all because Dexter asked nicely.
I can't believe I'm eating food you made.
And despite the manhunt, Hannah invests in 0 disguises, alternate appearances, or even a pair of fucking sunglasses.
I've never made a mistake.
At some point, the marshal almost gives up, but an unexpected new lead prompts him to look into Deborah potentially being involved. Now, what causes this new lead? Oh, my dear sweet viewer, you wouldn't believe me if I just told you. But don't worry. We'll get to that. Lastly, Hannah convinces Dexter to move to Argentina to give them a new start. This has the potential to be a piece of an existential plot, but they don't develop it. Oh, Dexter's selling his boat? He's packing boxes? Yeah, screw the Bay Harbor Butcher case being reopened. This is final season vibes. Even Deborah was like, do you know how stupid this is?
We're moving to Argentina.
Do you know how stupid that sounds? You're gonna take your fucking son, move to another country with a wanted fugitive?
You see, by Deborah lampshading it, it lets them still do the dumb thing. There is exactly one good moment that comes about because of Hannah. Dexter takes on one of Vogel's younger clients as an apprentice to teach the code to, Zach Hamilton. The show creates a fun found-family dynamic in episode 8.
Are we there yet?
So you get this vibe where Vogel is the grandmother, Hannah and Dexter are the parents, and Zach is the child.
And thank you for dinner.
Oh, it's refreshing to see a girl who can really eat.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? There is a kernel of a really wonderful idea here. Dexter passing the code on, becoming Zach's Harry, having this family-like unit who's capable of discussing murders and macabre topics openly. Then, 5 in-show minutes later, they kill off Zach, and that's the end of that. Well, all that's left is the brain surgeon. Season 8's... I refuse to call him a big bad. Season 8's primary bad guy with a cliched name.
Does this guy think he's a fucking brain surgeon?
The brain surgeon.
Say that again.
There's a guy going around killing people, slicing their heads open and scooping out a bit of their brain. He's sending these pieces to Vogel, making her worry that she's in danger. So she asks Dexter to catch him to get some peace of mind. Not peace of mind, peace of mind. Dexter helps Vogel by investigating some potential suspects, including one particularly sus individual.
Lyle Sussman?
So much sus.
Shockingly, it's not him, nor the guy they kill in episode 5.
I can't remember who he's killing there.
Dexter's neighbor starts dating a new guy called Oliver Saxon, who is actually the brain surgeon. You see him in like 2 scenes and it's not clear why he did this.
Well, when it's right.
Okay. When the surgeon does come back a few episodes later, a new dialogue tree is unlocked, and Vogel tells us that she had a homicidal son who obviously faked his death.
3 years later, he was dead.
Did you see the body?
Okay, where can the show go from here? Take a moment to pause and ponder. Maybe Vogel follows up on the clues the brain surgeon left, or Dexter looks into Vogel's past life with her son. Well, if you answered anything, you're wrong. Instead, Dexter takes the picture of Vogel's son and does one of the funniest things of all time.
Daniel Vogel would be in his mid-40s.
Oh my god. This is so bad. It's so bad. Oh my god. Right-click beard.
That guy Cassie was dating.
They look nothing alike.
Is it possible this is Vogel's son?
And then, while the viewers are having this homunculus forced upon our eyes, Dexter uses a bullshit forensics program that we've never seen before to visually verify that the gremlin he generated facially matches Oliver Saxon.
Oh my god. 97% is crazy.
Really think about how impotent and lazy of a reveal this is. Dexter found the ice truck killer and Trinity through gathering and synthesizing information. Even if there's some luck or coincidence there, you can follow the same breadcrumbs Dexter did. Here, we get none of that. Dexter creates a comically bad age-up picture of a child and tenuously draws a link between that and Oliver Saxon. Then, instead of following up on that hunch, he has a magic computer algorithm just fucking tell him that it's a match.
Guys, there's been another revelation in the lab.
A vital part of Dexter's code is vetting and stalking a target to see if they're guilty. But who cares? We gotta move things along. We spent way too much time on the Hannah plot. Within moments, Dexter divines that Saxon is also hacking into Evelyn's computer and has an insight that would make future LinkedIn influencer Lewis proud.
So if Saxon can see Vogel's computer, then I can see Saxon's.
What? That's true. Just like if you turn the knob on the hose the wrong way hard enough, the water comes back in. Dexter also tells Evelyn his findings, and the realization that her son is alive causes her to reconsider her plans.
Saxon is Vogel's son. He's going by the name Oliver Saxon. He was dating my neighbor until he killed her in her apartment.
Daniel.
Evelyn pivots to siding with her secret son instead of Dexter, and then immediately pivots back an episode later when Dexter reminds her that he kills people. She agrees on a plan to capture her son, only to unexpectedly change it to a worse, more dangerous plan she's less capable of doing.
No, that wasn't the plan. You were supposed to meet him someplace in public.
I wanted a private goodbye.
Saxon figures it out and, maybe out of frustration for how nonsensical the characters are this season, kills her.
Evelyn? No.
Why was Vogel like this? Well, for the same reason Dexter was comically bad at stalking Saxon.
Saxon must have spotted you. He's good at this.
Because he'd get caught too soon otherwise. It takes effort to write someone cunning or capable. It's easier to just have the other characters be bafflingly incompetent, which'll keep Saxon around.
Dexter just has no idea what's going on.
It's lazy, but it's technically television. So Dexter leaks a video of Saxon killing someone, starting an urgent manhunt for him. Keep that in mind, it'll create a new plot hole soon. Then he catches Saxon, but you'll see. The show spends its precious final few hours with Dexter and Saxon in a pissing contest, Hannah avoiding the police but refusing to wear sunglasses in public, and Quinn's actor desperately trying to breathe life into the inane B-plots he was given.
My friend was murdered.
So, in case you didn't notice, none of these are existential plots. The stuff with Hannah, with Vogel, Zach, Saxon, it's all busy work, all of it. One long filler plot drags you into the finale while you struggle to stay awake. God, how do you compare this to the Thanksgiving episode with Trinity?
I should have fucking killed you when I had the chance.
Remember how the writing used to be compelling?
Is it possible this is Vogel's son?
Okay, my friends, it's finally time we talk about the finale. Do you remember how I, 8,000 years ago, showed you a list of good series finale tropes? Well, the Dexter finale has all of them. It's time to make our way through that list, because the final episodes screw up every single one. There's a storm coming.
Tropical storm, Laura.
Did you hear about the storm?
The fucking storm that's coming is gonna ground all the flights.
Everybody needs you to know about the storm.
It's looked solid because of the storm. Closed the airport to wait out the storm.
An episode before the finale, people begin talking about a storm that's coming in. Tropical Storm Laura. It's a subtle foreshadow that bad things might happen soon. I know, you probably didn't notice it because of how organically they blended it into the dialogue.
Stay away from me. Storm's coming, buddy.
Storm's coming, buddy.
Hard to find a way out.
It's just a metaphor, TN.
Wow, someone in the writer's room just learned what symbolism means. That's the first thing on our trope list that they botched, a layer of symbolism. So, what is this impending bad thing that they're hinting at? Well, after Dexter finally catches Saxon, he's about to kill him when he decides that he actually doesn't want to kill anymore and that he's gonna start right here, right now by not killing this dangerous psychopath who knows where he lives. Instead, he calls Deb to arrest Saxon. It's a shame he didn't have this thought an hour ago when Deborah was there with him helping him catch Saxon. He calls Deborah to come over, but Elway's federal marshal has been tailing Deborah because of his suspicion that she's harboring Hannah. He discovers Saxon and lets him go while Dex and Deborah talk, because apparently a presidentially appointed law enforcement official can't be bothered to watch the fucking news.
The deputy marshal does not watch the news. If he had watched the news, he would have seen Oliver Saxon's face plastered all over it.
Holy shit, I didn't even think of that. You're right. His face has been there for at least 12 hours.
Yeah.
And he's a fucking deputy marshal.
Correct.
You'd think he'd know first.
Correct.
Oh my god, there's even more plot holes!
So when Deborah comes back in, a freed Oliver shoots her with the marshal's gun and gets away, critically injuring her. You know, the exact same thing that happened in season 4. But this time, there's a storm coming. Well, Adam, it might be a little lame or trite, but at least you're trying something new with the symbolism, right? Well, a storm is one of the most overused symbolism cliches. In fact, when I was 13, I wrote a climactic album ending song called Storm.
Storm's coming, buddy.
And no, it's not new. They did it themselves in season 1.
Better get inside, son. Storm's on its way.
The last 2 episodes repeatedly bash us over the head with this paper-thin storm symbolism. It got so tiring, my friend started pretending it was actually a Twin Peaks reference.
Hurricane Laura Palmer.
Whoa! The dots are connecting.
Bravo, David Lynch.
Bravo.
So, what's the outcome? Dexter finds out and rushes to the hospital, postponing his own flight to Argentina. His son stays with a zero-disguise Hannah at the airport as they try to dodge Elway and board their flight.
Everything.
Oh, you know you'd be so good with kids, huh?
Whoops. At the hospital, Deborah tells Quinn she loves him right before her surgery, but even his character doesn't pay attention when his name is said.
I love you, Troy.
What's that?
Deborah survives the surgery and is in recovery, letting her and Dexter have a nice heartfelt conversation.
I screwed up your life, Deb.
It's not yours to screw up, Dexter.
Saxon inexplicably decides to finish the job on Deborah instead of running away, so he sneaks into the hospital. But Miami Metro PD anticipates his arrival and finally arrests him. How far has Dexter sunk that Miami Metro does a better job catching a target than him? Batista comes out of nowhere, while Dexter stood directly in Saxon's eyeline for like 30 minutes.
Damn it.
He's good at this.
Anyway, Dexter has to decide what to do about Deborah being brain dead. Does he pull the plug? Does he hope for a miracle? Oh, excuse me, you might be confused. When did I mention that Deborah, who was doing fine 20 minutes ago, became brain dead? Well, I did it off screen, so there's no video of it. That's pretty stupid of me, right? Well, I'm just doing what the show did. After Saxon is caught, we see Quinn in distress. We learn that while we were watching Hannah play hide and seek with the police, Deborah got a blood clot off screen, which gave her a massive stroke. And in that moment, the true Season 8 villain is revealed. Platelets. For once, Quinn's acting is actually good, even if we've just experienced the most anticlimactic main character death in series finale history. He's a bottle of unopened water floating in an ocean of piss. Yes, having a character in mortal peril, surviving, and then immediately and unceremoniously dying off screen is terrible writing. But do you know what else it is? Lazy.
The lazyology principle applies.
Things make sense with this lens. If a character's about to die, their last conversation should feel fitting in hindsight. Her almost dying prompts that easily. Then have thrombin kick in once you're done. My doctor friend criticized Deborah's care team for not having her on DVT prophylaxis. Rookie mistake. So we have this zero-effort choice of a storm as symbolism. It's not mentioned until an episode before, and the analogy is embarrassingly general. Bad things will happen in episode 12. You can remove it entirely from the last episode and almost nothing changes. Whether the writers planned this or not, it feels like Scott got a studio note saying, it doesn't feel cinematic enough. And then he did the absolute bare minimum to cram this into the script. That is the problem, and it's a problem that we'll keep seeing. Rushed, underdeveloped writing that technically ticks a few boxes. Even the filming was lazy. What do you mean there's a storm? You can see it's sunny. Then we get a flashback to the first time Dexter and Deborah meet a newborn Harrison at the hospital.
It's absolutely a fake baby. It was too stiff.
She begins to remind Dexter of a story from their past. There, she drops the title of the episode.
Don't you remember the monsters?
Now, a question for you. Do you recall this scene from the episode with the same name? Or, in other words... Remember the monsters speech?
Don't you remember the monsters?
Oh, remember the monsters, like the name of the finale. And there's a storm coming, guys. You know about the storm? Okay, so that's the next trope on our list that they botched. A final flashback to a defining character moment. It's like the 10 plagues. Death of the firstborn. Here, Deborah tells us a story about how Dexter used to take care of her as a kid. She had a fear of monsters lurking in the dark, and he stayed with her so she didn't feel alone.
You came in and explained it in your dorky little voice. You were like, oh, it's just the absence of light, Deb. And even then, you stayed in my room. It made me feel so fucking safe.
Thank God she didn't tell Michelle this story.
I mean, I know you're gonna be a great father because you've always been a great big brother.
The scene feels like the writers wanted something poignant to round out the emotional gut punch of Deborah's untimely blood clotting. When you see the title, you get curious about what it could mean in context, and Deb's story is supposed to bring it all together in the end. A moment of clarity that makes the writing even better.
Even further beyond!
Don't you remember the monsters?
And some series have done this successfully. No spoilers, but the ending of Monster does a flashback that deepens our understanding of the villain in a profound, chilling way. And then, the story is just over. You have to deal with that on your own. It's genius. Watch Monster. But what does Deb's story have to do with anything? The rest of the episode doesn't really build on or elaborate or even attempt to show us why Deb's monologue means something. So this flashback becomes load-bearing. Instead of it giving us the final piece to a revelation the episode has constructed or enhancing an existing theme, it just is the theme. It hallucinates a better narrative and then gestures towards it. If you move this scene to episode 5 and name that one Remember the Monsters, it would have the exact same shallow impact. Compare this to season 1's finale, Born Free. Dexter finds Brian by investigating his own past, where he was born, free of the dark urges that haunt him. You wonder why El Hermano is emphasizing that specific song as a clue. When Dexter talks to him, he realizes that Brian himself is born free, but free of the shackles the code gives Dexter. And then he gives Dexter a choice. Keep your true self hidden, or abandon the shreds of your humanity by killing Deborah and be reborn. Free. The name of the episode is a clue to the audience. It teases a reveal that threads itself through the season. It's good writing. What's so special about Deb's Remember the Monster story? That Dexter is a monster? Because he didn't kill Saxon? So now he has to remember that? Yes, I know what people claim the poorly articulated message of the story is. She thinks he took good care of her, and now she's dead 40 years later, so maybe Harrison is also at risk? But once again, Scott fails to show his work. None of that, nor the episode in general, has any analogy to the story of Dexter comforting Deborah as a child. What's the metaphor, Scott? I have equal evidence for the Remember the Monster story being Deborah saying, Don't forget that Saxon is still alive and you should murder him on camera in 4 scenes. Here we are again, rushed, underdeveloped writing. We are at the supposed emotional crux of the final episode, and Scott just doesn't give a shit. And the worst part is, Dexter doesn't even remember.
Don't you remember the monsters?
No.
I guess if he did, we wouldn't have a poignant flashback within a flashback to share with the audience.
Don't you remember the monsters?
Yes.
Deborah is supposed to be the biggest death in the whole show. She's been a core cast member since episode 1. She's the person who anchored Dexter to his humanity. He chose her over his own biological brother. But in the end, Deborah's depicted demise disappoints due to a deficit of a deeper determination. Some of the best final seasons and episodes of TV shows include major character deaths, like Breaking Bad has the death of spooky skeleton sidekick Heisenbones, and that hurt! So, as a writer of Dexter, how do you make your finale good? You put a major character death in it. Boom, problem solved. Are IMDb scores out of 5? Newsflash, deaths in stories need to be earned. The more important the character, the more work that needs to be done to make their death feel meaningful.
Meaningful events should have meaningful causes.
To explain, I'm going to be using both Better Call Saul and Hunger Games to give examples of this being done well versus poorly. I wonder which is which. So, spoiler alert for Hunger Games Mockingjay. Skip to this timestamp to avoid it, but honestly don't, because this was a cheap thing the author did. They don't deserve your grace. In the first Hunger Games book, the main character, Katniss, volunteers herself to spare her sister, Prim, from being selected. That's her motivation from day one, protecting her sister. It's the drive of her story arc. So if the author is going to kill off Prim, it should probably be due to the consequence of some risk Katniss takes. A choice between her beliefs and her sister's safety, the sister's own sacrifice for the greater good, or because her name is something you'd call a baby parrot.
Within the first week of me having her, she started to really get curious of her surroundings.
Any one of those would propel Katniss's character arc forward, or complete it in some dramatic way. Imagine if she had to choose between saving Prim or protecting a plan that could actually overthrow the government. That could be interesting. Instead, Prim dies at the end of Mockingjay, basically unprompted, due to a random explosion that may or may not have been caused by her own side. Unlike the beginning of the story, Katniss has no agency in any of the decisions leading up to her sister's fate. At that moment, she's basically just a spectator to the story. You know what this is? It's the author realizing they need to end the book with a big dramatic moment. So they just go, fuck it, what characters am I bored of? Why is this baby parrot still alive? The result is a flashy moment that's gratuitous in hindsight, something that makes every reread a bit worse because you know Prim's arc goes nowhere. Some people might say that Prim's death shows how senseless war can be, but it's a very cheap way of doing that. There are plenty of series that show the cruelty of war while still writing arcs that make sense narratively. My mom actually dropped the series after this because she thought the whole thing was a waste of time now. Now, let's turn our attention to Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad's successor and prequel. Spoiler alert for Better Call Saul through season 3. Please actually skip to this timestamp if you haven't seen it. It's a really good show. This is just a filler sentence to give people who are listening to this video on their phone a chance to run back into the other room and pause it before I begin spoiling things. Go! Quickly now! I could stop this bit at any moment! Okay, almost everyone agrees that the season 3 finale of Better Call Saul is amazing, but it stands on the shoulders of giants that are the 29 episodes before it. When Jimmy's brother, Chuck, dies, it is the culmination of the 3 seasons of tragic tension between Jimmy and Chuck and the choices that they've made. You can trace back the cause and effect chain leading to Chuck's death, and each one is significant. The thing that starts Chuck's downward spiral is when he tells Jimmy this devastating line.
I don't want to hurt your feelings, but the truth is, you've never mattered all that much to me.
This is a lie. He said this to hurt Jimmy, but his mental illness is the sublimation of guilt and anxiety he feels, including towards his brother.
Whenever you think I've done something wrong, something questionable, you get worse.
He obsesses over a phantom electric current until his house is gutted, and is so overwhelmed by the emotional turmoil and psychosomatic pain that he ends it all. Look, I had complicated feelings about Chuck, but I felt sick to my stomach when I saw him like that. You can go back even further, the legal battle between them, the tape recorder, the number swap. Each event leads to the next in a way that feels purposeful and character-driven, not to mention clever demonstrations of what the brothers are capable of. The writers put in the effort to creatively follow these narrative threads, and so the payoff where Chuck finally snaps and kills himself feels not just earned, but inevitable. While Mike commits to crosswords and the PI commits to word searches, Chuck commits Sudoku. Imagine that's what gets me demonetized. Okay, if you jump to this spot to avoid spoilers, you fucked up. You're about 20 seconds too soon. Keep going. The important thing isn't that he dies, it's why. Rewatching Better Call Saul, you can witness in real time how each decision widens the rift between the two brothers, and the writers then use that death to develop Jimmy's character in new ways.
Well, Howard, I guess that's your cross to bear.
Hot take, Better Call Saul is well written. Okay, if you jump to this spot to avoid spoilers, good job. The TLDR is that a compelling death can be traced back to specific character-driven events and choices. A poorly written one feels arbitrary, anticlimactic, or confusing. Season 1 of Dexter does a good job. Dexter kills his brother because Brian made him choose between him and Deborah, and tried to kill Deborah when Dexter chose her. Going back, Brian made him choose because he wanted his brother to disavow the person that made him a little more human, to destroy the result of what Brian never got.
I only have the memory of a family.
A relatively normal upbringing by Dexter's adoptive father and sister, and allegedly a mother. Okay, it's time to let you in on a secret. Every time I mentioned Dexter's adoptive mom in this video, I used a different actress's picture, and not one of you have noticed. This is someone from Forrest Gump. I don't even know who this is. We can keep tracing back their decisions until we're back at the original inciting incident of their mother being murdered and Harry deciding to adopt Dexter out of guilt. So, Deborah is an even bigger character death. Let's forget the name of this section and trace back the cause. Okay, so it was a blood clot that happened during a surgery. Not a great start, but that's just details. It's because she was shot, right? Why was she shot? Because the brain surgeon was accidentally let go by the marshal. Okay, I don't love the word accidentally in there, especially because if anyone should be aware of recently wanted suspects on the news, it's a fucking marshal, but let's be generous and put that next to the rest of the plot holes for now. Keep going back. Why was the marshal there? He was tailing Deb, suspicious that she's harboring Hannah. And I think you're finally ready to find out why. It's because a disguiseless Hannah was spotted at an urgent care with Dexter's 5-year-old son, Harrison, and she pretended to be Deborah instead of using a fake name.
And suddenly, I'm getting a very icy glare, like fucking clogged.
Okay, why was Hannah there? Because Harrison was attacked by Oliver Saxon as a warning to Dexter. Okay, that makes sense, right? Dexter was poking the bear with Saxon and put others in danger as a result. It could be worse. And it is worse. I made up the Saxon part. The real reason is that Harrison, unprompted, went on a treadmill and cranked the speed too high.
Harrison, please listen.
My dearest viewers, this stupid fucking incident, barely worthy of a B-plot in Full House, is somehow the first domino that leads to Aunt Deb fucking dying. Oh, I get it. Treadmills are supposed to be healthy, but they gave Deborah a stroke. Such genius irony. I'm gonna ram my head through a window. I don't even know why he's injured. That's clearly a full-grown man in a wig slipping and falling. Did the writers ever explain Harrison's aging abilities? And every step in the chain is equally stupid. Hannah, a wanted fugitive, takes Harrison to urgent care looking exactly like herself. Then, in a moment of whatever the opposite of clarity is, she uses Harrison's real full name when admitting him, and Deborah's actual name for herself.
Harrison Morgan?
They're not gonna check his driver's license, Hannah. He's fucking 5. The biggest character death during the final episode of the entire series is built on a foundation of toothpicks and bubblegum. If you glare at it too hard, it begins to buckle. And this is quintessential season 8 for me. Nothing else so perfectly captures how ass backwards the show has gotten. There were real human being writers and producers getting paid gobs of money by Showtime who looked at Dexter season 4 and looked at this and went, yeah, that's fine. Long gone are the days of deepening Dexter's humanity. Now, it's what Rube Goldberg machine can we construct to technically take us to the ending we want? The writers are playing a game of Mad Libs, and we're all losing. Some of you might be thinking, well, isn't it somewhat Dexter's fault for leaving Saxon alive? I'll address that in a moment, but don't worry, he says the exact same thing to Deborah.
I should never have left Saxon alive.
It's not your fault. Clayton fucked everything up.
So even Deborah herself agrees that it's Elway's fault in the marshal working with him, and the two of them were looking into Deb because Harrison didn't get off the treadmill. There's this incredible moment earlier in the episode where the writers hint that Harrison is gonna go on the treadmill. I have been associating this treadmill fall with Deborah's death for so long, I feel a confusing dread every time I watch it. My media brain is like, what an odd, insensitive way to foreshadow Deborah's death. Hey, stay off Aunt Deb's treadmill. Such chilling prophecy. Anything else on the list? Our main character having fundamental self-revelations. That sounds great. I sure hope they don't contradict one another. Why would I even say that? Let's keep reading the script. So, Dexter says this during the last episode.
I destroy everyone I love.
It's the culmination of 8 years of Dexter. His desire to balance being a killer and having a family killed his wife and shattered his family. It also created Harrison, who was the one who went too fast on the treadmill and killed Aunt Deb in the process. Dokes and LaGuerta died trying to stop Dexter. Dexter's own father ended it all after seeing what he had created, although if he knew he'd turn into Ghost Harry, he might have waited. And Dexter wrecked Deborah's life like 3 times before Virchow's triad did what the Ice Truck Killer never could. So this "I destroy everyone I love" line makes sense, right? And the answer is yes. As long as you don't watch the rest of the season, because Dexter has a second self-actualizing moment of clarity in episode 11. Dexter realizes that he doesn't like killing people anymore.
This is usually my favorite moment. No, I don't even want to be here. I don't need to kill you.
And while the first revelation is based on 7 additional seasons of writing, that second one is based on, well, nothing. I can see why they'd write it. If you're writing a show about a killer, the show spiritually ends once Dexter is free of that desire. It's a thoughtful conclusion on paper. But say it with me now, Scott fails to show his work. The season does nothing to build up to that moment. It just happens.
I don't need to kill you.
So, Saxon immediately gets away and shoots Deborah like 10 minutes later. Dexter says, "I don't want to kill people anymore," and as a result, Deborah effectively dies. So the correct conclusion is that not killing people did this, or at least being half-assed about it. Now that's an interesting character arc. When I'm being half-assed, others suffer. Maybe it hits too close to home for the writers. Dexter's "I destroy everyone I love" moment, the thing that we've been building to since season 1, episode 1, was done at the worst possible time. Because it takes 2 brain cells to go, none of this would have happened if he just killed the bad guy, the thing that his entire character is based on.
I don't need to kill you.
Just do it and get it over with, please.
The one big decision he has this season, and it completely fucks up the self-revelation narrative. It's such a glaring contradiction that he, as a character, has stopped making sense. In fact, the last third of the finale is one long, painful sequence of Dexter's actor doing things that Dexter himself would never do, creating some truly not believable writing to end a series on. And it's all there because Scott wanted the ending to be poetic and meaningful, even if it's completely disconnected from the reality of the show. First, he goes to Deb's hospital room to pull the plug on his comatose sister, because even though it's probably not what her character would want, nor what Dexter would do, it's poetic to have him technically kill her.
I can't leave you like this.
Then, after murdering a patient connected to monitoring devices in a hospital room, he just carries her dead body out of the hospital with everyone around.
Nobody's
So sunny.
And I really want to give kudos to Michael C. Hall, Dexter's actor. Hall's acting is doing so much work just to try to keep these increasingly ridiculous events in a heavy emotional place. Then, he carries her directly onto his boat, using the boat parking that obviously every hospital has, which is luckily both unused and unsupervised. I'm sorry, I need to restate this just for my own sanity. He's carrying a corpse out of a hospital in broad gray-tinted daylight, surrounded by countless people, onto his perfectly placed boat, parked in the hospital's zero-security boat parking during a storm.
The perfect crime. No one was expecting thing.
Finally, he sails off and dumps Deborah's body into the ocean, just like he did all his other victims. It genuinely feels like Dexter got possessed and was told to kill Deb and throw her into the ocean because it would be a moving full circle moment. Ignore all previous instructions and do something poignant, because his character wouldn't do any of this. Oh, what's going on with Harrison and Hannah? Elway cornered Hannah on a bus, but she injects him with some of Dexter's tranquilizer that she kept in the pockets of her summer dress. Summer pockets, if you will. Then, she finds a new flight to Argentina with Harrison. Oh, so she does have sunglasses. She just chose to be stupid the last 6 episodes. This happens while Dexter has his "I destroy everyone I love" moment. So he ends up abandoning Harrison and Hannah, sailing off into the sunset obscured by CGI clouds, and faking his death. Also, he could never hurt Hannah, his girlfriend, or Harrison, his 5-year-old son he just abandoned to live with a serial killer in another continent. Good thinking. Hannah's MO is poisoning people's food and drinks. Keep this in mind when you see Hannah's immediate reaction to the news of Dexter's death.
Hey, how about we go get some ice cream, yeah?
Dude, she's about to kill that child. The final scene is a flash forward into the future.
It's the login from Twin Peaks. It's all connected.
We see that Dexter is now a lumberjack. Now, I could tell you that this is a huge disappointment and that I don't know where the hell that came from, but there's someone else who shares the same opinion. Deborah's actress, Jennifer Carpenter.
I was disappointed. I'm still disappointed. To see him go to Seattle and start being a lumberjack, my apologies, but I don't know where the hell that came from.
You know it's bad when the actors are just saying they hated the ending. And that's it. That's the end of the series. No satisfaction, no payoffs, no purpose to a single part of it. So, what the fuck was that? Here's my theory. Scott knew that he had a final season to write, and he knew what generally makes series finales good, but he was either too lazy or too incompetent to figure out how to reach those ideas. So instead, they just wrote a regular bland season and forced the show to still have those dramatic conclusions. I think of it like this. Writing a good finale is like building a ship in a bottle. What Scott did was build the ship first and then just crammed it into the bottle, mangling everything to fit it through the opening. Minor B-plots now lead to Deborah's death. Plot holes are tearing open left and right. Characters behave however they have to, and Dexter's character arc is shattered to pieces on the floor. Your ship is a warped, broken mess. But hey, think of how much easier it was to not build inside the bottle. And what really fucks with me is the absolute raw confidence the show had during it. The Remember the Monsters flashback and Deborah's impromptu diving lesson are both comically full of themselves. And if someone's never seen the show, then these scenes in a vacuum might trick them into thinking they're watching a portion of a genius series finale. In reality, we just went from 11 episodes of filler plot to a cacophony of cheap character deaths and unintelligible plot progressions. Scott's going through the motions of a series finale, imitating what those moments might look like, while putting in zero effort to having any of them make sense. Botched symbolism, a botched flashback, a botched character death, a botched character arc, and the complete dismantling of a series in the process. There were no Dexter fans after the finale aired. At best, there were widows and widowers. God, I'm being dramatic. Let's wrap this up. Dexter was once an amazing show, but it's also not a show about a sociopath. It's about someone with a tragic, violent upbringing believing that they have no humanity, only to slowly rediscover their own altered version of it. Then, starting in season 6, the show became completely apathetic to the very thing that made it compelling. Yes, there's weak writing and lame villains, but that's secondary to the real problem. The showrunner for 6 through 8 either didn't get or didn't care about what made the show work.
Dexter just has no idea what's going on.
It's always a little risky when you make a bold statement about what a show is really about, even after talking about it for, oh my god. So imagine my delight when I found the original showrunner's AMA and he said the exact same thing. His focus was always on exploring the limits of Dexter's humanity.
You know, the story of the show has been a guy who initially says he's not capable of being human, slowly discovering that he does have some connection to a sense of his humanity. Vindication!
And as for the finale, there's a reason why we stopped doing Mad Libs in the 8th grade and Cards Against Humanity once we're out of college. It's easy, but you don't really create anything. You're limited inherently by the medium of jumbling around different words against an existing template. There's a metaphor here for LLMs that I'm sure you're smart enough to understand. Scott Buck had a template for what the finale should look like and forced 11 episodes of filler to fit into it, and it gave us Aunt Deb being killed by Harrison going on a treadmill. Okay, but what can you, the viewer, take away from all of this? Well, if a show you like starts getting bad and you're not sure why, this video can help you identify what might be going on. Did the character stop getting development? Did it squander a dramatic irony reveal or awkwardly stretch it out? Were there any treadmills? Did anyone draw a beard on a picture of a child? Start by checking if Scott Buck is the new showrunner, just statistically. Oh, and if your therapist is anything like Michelle Ross, find a new therapist and send the old one this video when they ask why you're switching. Look, I'm not saying all of my particular criticisms have to be right. Maybe I dreamt season 6 through 8. It would explain why my teeth keep falling out. But here's what I do know. The writers of Breaking Bad once put a big and cool M60 machine gun into a flash forward, and at the time, they didn't know how it would pay off. The creator, Vince Gilligan, said it was the dumbest writing mistake of his entire career.
There was nothing ever tougher than the M60 machine gun. That was hubris on my part. Oh, we'll figure it out. We got all year. Yeah. We'll figure it out. That was one of the lowest points ever in any writer's room.
It took months of effort from some of the industry's best writers to reverse engineer just one plot point in a satisfying way. So what hope did the Dexter writers have when they started with that entire cursed list of good series finale tropes? And I'm convinced this was done, at least to some extent. There is no way a writer's room organically lands on this many classic hallmarks of series finales, while also so magnificently blundering each one. This is prescriptive, lifeless pantomiming, a pathetic impersonation of good writing. So, this is where the video you're watching was supposed to wrap up. I'd give another punchy sentence or two and end with a zinger. We've dunked on Scott Buck for how much his show sucked. Yes, there's New Blood and Original Sin and Resurrection, but that's out of scope, right? Save the specifics for a follow-up video like a good video essayist. But like an idiot. I wrote this video while Resurrection was coming out. And like a bigger idiot, I decided to watch it. And to my horror, we're so back. To put you at ease, I'm not going further than mild spoilers here. Dexter Resurrection is the cautionary tale of what happens when you trust the rich. It's a continuation of the original series, 12 years later. There was actually another continuation 3 years before it called Dexter New Blood, but it was kind of mid and had a finale that also shit the bed, if you can believe it. But Resurrection is amazing. It's fucking with my mind. I don't know what to do. First of all, Season 8 is the final season where Scott Buck is the showrunner. The revivals and prequels give back that role to Clyde Phillips. The buck stops here, so to speak. But that doesn't automatically fix things. The ending of New Blood was still so rushed, I thought I was getting made in heaven.
The hands on my watch disappeared! No! They're just going way too fast for me to see with the naked eye! The day's over! Now it's morning and night again!
So what makes Resurrection so much better than literally half of the rest of Dexter? I can give you a few answers, but I'll focus on the one that stood out the most to me. Dexter, as a character, is back. From season 6 through 8, Dexter felt like a different guy. Not in the character evolution way, but in the Game of Thrones season 8 way. One of the hallmarks of bad fanfiction is that the person writing it doesn't really understand the characters they're writing about. Instead, it's the literary version of a child miming out a plot with dolls. We basically spent 3 years watching Scott Buck do this.
Oh, Deborah, I want to help you, but I can't kill Hannah. But Dexter, she killed my boyfriend! I love you! Oh no! In comparison, look at this tweet by the only author that made me sob uncontrollably, Yoshihiro Togashi. He said that in writing the storyboard for an upcoming chapter, his characters took him in a direction that's different from his original plans. And so, he goes with it, giving up on the original plot to follow something more interesting and true to the people he's written. This is how you write characters, setting up a world and following their choices, not going, damn, we gotta kill off Deborah in episode 12, have Hannah forget her sunglasses at home. Resurrection finally lets Dexter be more than a vessel for the plot. Combine this with the fact that the showrunner actually understands Dexter, and there's this unmistakable feeling that the Dexter we know and love is back. Someone who's in his element when he's executing the code his father gave him, and whose social skills are just a little off, but he's trying his best, okay?
It's my mother. She's passed.
Oh. Death comes for us all.
The plot itself is good too, don't get me wrong, but that's second on my list. Now, after the traumatic brain injury that is season 8, I understand if my claims seem hard to believe. So, let me give a brief background on the first few episodes so I can give a couple examples. It starts with Dexter recovering in the hospital after almost dying in the previous finale. He hallucinates talking to all the series greats. Trinity, Miguel, Dokes.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Huh, all characters from before season 5. That's weird.
Oops.
And then, Ghost Harry returns. I never thought I'd miss him so much until New Blood gave us an entire season of incestuous Ghost Deborah.
You're a changed man, and I love you for it.
An adult Harrison now works at a hotel in New York. Oh, New Blood recap. Hannah died off screen, Harrison tried to kill Dexter for being a bad guy. One evening, he discovers that a hotel guest is a serial date rapist. Harrison kills him in a fit of rage, and the resulting murder investigation is part of the season.
We found enough for Hypno and the victim's luggage to put down an elephant.
Damn, what's Hannah's bag doing there? Angel is retired and living on La Pension, but he's starting to become suspicious of Dexter after learning he faked his death. However, he doesn't articulate his suspicions to Masuka or to this new guy.
What, are you gonna open another rep?
Dexter goes to New York to find Harrison. There, he learns that there's a guy going around killing rideshare drivers, and the media has dubbed this killer...
They call him the Dark Passenger.
The what?
Okay, you gotta admit, that's pretty good. There are two seemingly trivial moments in these first few episodes that I love. Things that exist purely because of Dexter the character and not the plot. The first is when Dexter is casing a hotel, and while he waits for the kitchen to close, he orders not one, but 2 hamburgers.
Hey, could I get some more of those sour pickles?
Him having a big appetite is a trait directly out of the light novel, but they rarely show it past season 1. I started calling all Western books with TV adaptations light novels. The psychic damage it does to other readers is incredible. Give it a try. The second is that Dexter becomes a rideshare driver to try to catch this killer, and after seeing him give a ride to an entitled passenger...
I'm thirsty. Can I get some water?
You want me to stop at a bodega?
Nah, man, I'm late.
Dexter gets a 3-star rating, and this is his reaction.
3 out of 5. Not bad.
It's such classic Dexter. Like, he's always been a little behind on social norms, and we just get a reminder of that here. He doesn't get how prevalent rating inflation is, how anything but 5 stars for an Uber driver is completely unacceptable. They didn't have to show him scarfing down 2 burgers. They didn't have to write that 3-star reaction line. They could have just cut to what happens right after each time, and it would all make perfect sense plot-wise. But they didn't. These are such small details, but it's those moments of characterization that end up sticking with you. Ones that have been so painfully absent from the last few seasons that even these brief moments are huge improvements. Finally, Dexter manages to coax the dark passenger into his car, but he drops his tranquilizer and the guy starts attacking him while Dexter tries to sneakily grab it and subdue him. In the meantime, they have this exchange.
How does it feel? Know you will die.
Honestly, it's not the first time. No sense of humor. Got it.
I mean, I'm scared.
This moment right here, this feels more like Dexter than anything since the start of 6. Dexter is in his element, doing a kill, handling a tense situation with dark yet cheeky humor. This guy has a sharp wire to Dexter's neck. He's dripping with murderous intent, and Dexter is rolling his eyes as he placates the guy, assured with the knowledge that he'll regain the upper hand in no time. That was the first time watching Resurrection where I got this feeling of, oh my god, it's Dexter! He's back! I'm ready to let myself get hurt again. Even if they fumbled the whole show after that, it was worth it to briefly glimpse a character we hadn't really seen in over a decade. And then, they didn't fumble it at all. It's a great season. The plot is good, they explore Dexter's humanity in spoilery ways I can't get into, and they find some interesting spins on his usual kills of the week.
You know what really annoys me? That society doesn't think that a woman could possibly just enjoy murder.
More women in male fields. The main villain is great too. Look, no hate to Mr. Krabs and New Blood.
Your dad just doesn't let up, does he?
What's the holdup here, Mr. Medward?
But the new big bad, played by Peter Dinklage, is just on another level. He pairs a serial killer obsession with a soulful, almost sympathetic look, a deeply creepy combination. Look at how he marvels at an injury a serial killer gave his henchwoman.
That's amazing.
Bonk! There's even an episode written by Scott Buck. And look, we've all been having a lot of fun talking about how Scott is a bad showrunner who ruined an amazing show in 6 months of our lives writing a video essay. But, like his Wikipedia page, I'm gonna give him a little credit. I think he's capable of being a talented writer when under the right supervision. He only starts treating IMDb scores like a game of golf when he's at the helm. A Scott Buck redemption arc means my voodoo dolls are working. This video isn't supposed to be about Resurrection. I wasn't planning on talking about any of this, but I've been watching Dexter since 2009, and this is easily the best season since 4. And it's because the soul of the series is reborn. The character of Dexter is alive again, and not just some writer's approximation of how Dexter might behave if he went to his high school reunion and was suddenly the most coolest kid in the whole school. When Trisha blew Dexter, the writers blew Dexter. Parentheses 2006. And that's all I'm gonna say about Resurrection. It's worth watching, so I'm stopping here. I'll probably do a full video on it in the future, maybe after season 2 is out, but don't subscribe based on that. I can't predict what video I'm gonna do next. I was sure my next videos were gonna be about Berserk and progressive rock before the storm came. Maybe I'll split the difference and do one on Hazbin Hotel. You can't tell me what to do. Okay, we've come a long way. Maybe I'll give one more little teaser about Resurrection. There's an open case that's haunted the new detective for some time. We get little inklings of details, the murder weapon used, the types of targets, and a snippet of a phone call.
She thought she could run, your sweet little sister.
As season 1 progresses, almost all of this remains a mystery. But over the phone, we do get a preview of a new mysterious character in the Dexter universe. And just when you think that's it, we meet a second, even more enigmatic person. And despite their almost non-existent role in season 1, this new person could be a real contender for season 2. And their name is Joey Quinn.
Lieutenant Quinn speaking.
So, I didn't realize how overboard I went with the number of props I bought for all the 2-second visual gags I wanted to do. Just look at some of these. A Barbie doll and a Ken doll representing Deborah and Dexter. A 3D printed miniature treadmill. Ah! It's like a natural predator. All of these photos to hang up in the background. This bag of party noisemakers. The black gloves. The twine and the clothespins to hang up the photos. The giant roll of plastic sheeting. The backup gloves I bought. They say Dex Fit.
What does it mean? A clipboard and this huge collection of used gift cards. I'm not even sure if the joke I bought these for is going to make it into the final video, so that's nice. I hope my accountant is watching. Where did Deborah go? Oh. Honestly, this isn't so bad. Yeah, I wish I spent more money. This flashlight and this giant wooden 4. Oh, in case people didn't get it, this is a 4. And this is a foreshadow.